Let's get it.
Is the face in the misty light.
So boom, right? Like you consent to recording. You consent to documenting this conversation, for records, wherever the case may be. So later on you can't be like, oh, this conversation never happened, or like we never had this discussion, right?
You can document this conversation if you want to.
All right. So no, but do you consent to it? Like yes, I consent to this, or
Yes, I consent to you documenting this conversation.
All right, because the reason why I want to document this is because there's a lot of people that comes from the Eurocentric left, specifically like Vosh, Destiny, and the various other bread tube, left tube, debate bro, dirtbag leftists, alt right, far right, anti SJW crowd. There's a lot of people from who I would summarize as come from a white identity politics, a Eurocentric leftist lens, who comes into our space, and we deal with a lot of fuckery that comes from those spaces. So to me, for you to want to have a conversation with me from our bread tube about black nationalism, and kind of didn't really have a conversation or a genuine discussion with me about that, then turn around and pop up at least a month later to shit posting here. To me, I just felt like it was very disingenuous, and the reason why I felt like it was I feel like it was disingenuous, and the reason why I felt like it was disingenuous was mainly due to the fact that all right, well, you're not here to engage with us, and if you're here to engage with us, it's only to serve you and your needs. And even the fact that you was like, well, I'm colorblind and I'm posting these red pills, but they green pills, but yeah, you call them red pills, right? Then on top of that, to me, this is not that space. I'm pretty sure you have abnormal amount of space in other discords where it's okay to shitpost, but out of all the servers that you chose to come into, you came into this space, and then it seems like you forgot what you was doing even in this space before you even came back to this space. You get what I'm saying? So the way I'm acting towards you is kind of reflective of that relationship between your presence in Scorpio world, right?
All right. Well, you're right to say that I really wasn't doing anything for a month. I just enabled Discord recently. Again, I spend almost no time on it outside of when we talked the first time around, I think. And
right.
I just figured I'd post a couple pictures and
Right, but think about it. You were saying that you were buzzed, and that talking to me would not be a genuinely good thing, right? So you was already yeah, I'm buzzed, I'm not gonna be well equipped to basically voice chat, right? So when you said that, the fact that you came in here buzzed to not say, oh yeah, what's up, y'all? I remembered I was talking to y'all. I had a good conversation with y'all. I want to come in. I want to come into the server. Because obviously you're at the portal, which is literally what it is, a portal, right? So you're in the portal, and instead of conversating with us to see how you could get in, you started shit posting. I told you stop shit posting, stop posting that shit in the chat, and then you was you basically you know what I mean? You basically kept doing it, right?
Maybe I missed because I wasn't aware that the portal was the place where you got tested to see if you could be let into the rest of the server.
Well, we're not testing nobody. It's just to make sure you're a real life fucking human being and not a troll, right? The reality is it literally tells you that when you look at the top where it say portal, it literally says that at the top. It's literally self-described. That is literally the descriptions in the top of the portal. So Like
Okay.
if you could have
Okay.
easily like tell like you got to read the room. It's literally that, right? Like you got to do a little investigation. Like okay, I get it. Granted, you didn't like understand that, but like even then, even if you really wanted to, like if you was wanted to be nosy on your like Judy B Jones shit, you could have just looked around the server and see what was going on here and see what was the context of any conversations that was being had or held. Because if I'm in a space, I want to be aware of what's being said within these spaces, like
Okay.
and get a general idea of what environment I'm in. So in case anything happened, you get what I'm saying. If anything happened or
Yeah.
anything occurred, like I understand that this is kind of a space that I'm engaged with or I'm active or a part of, and like if anything happened, like if there's any accountability that need to be held on my end because my participants in this space is kind of me paying attention to this space kind of shows my complicitness in like what goes on in those environments. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, well,
Right.
there's two things. There's two things that I probably did that were really stupid and out of context. And number one was saying I'm dropping red pills, which I understand there are. It started with what misogynistic and MRA undertones, and it kind of moved into more of a far right thing. And
Right. And like coming from your space, that's not a good sign. That's why I told you stop spamming it,
and
but you
then I
kept
said,
doing it, right?
and then I said I'm colorblind, which I mean at the time I was thinking of red versus green, which is like the
Yeah,
medical definition.
but regardless of what that is, I just told you like stop posting that shit. Period. Right.
Yeah,
So when I told you stop posting that, that means like stop posting it. Like I just told you no. So like no means
yeah.
no. So
When
right.
I identified as a libertarian, I also thought that the phrase "I'm colorblind" was, an inclusive phrase
Well, no,
because I
colorblind is
had
not an inclusive phrase. That is only inclusive for white people who engage in white identity politics. Like colorblind is something that is innately anti-black, and it has a strong political connotation to those who ignore black people's plight and the things that like us as minorities what we go through, definitely within this country,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So like this is what
and
I'm saying. Like you get buzzed and you come to a minority space with this bullshit. Like to me, a lot of this shit is like really uncalled for and unnecessary. And mind you, like you're coming on a representative or someone who engages in our bread tube and probably in many of these other leftist spaces or share views that are probably akin to what I would consider white identity politics. And to me, like I feel like I shouldn't have to go through this. You get what I'm saying? I feel like this is something that we shouldn't have to go through within the black space. And like what you were doing is blatantly disrespectful, right? Like, I shouldn't have to tell you this, but you're an adult. But it seems like you don't know this, right? So I have to make you aware of that. Like apparently, this is why I said I want to document this because it's like okay, like I go through this one too many times, and like I'm just tired of the bullshit. You get what I'm saying? So it's like okay, well,
yeah,
like let me talk to you and discuss things with you and see where your head at, right? Because like my goal was initially to like let you in eventually, but like we didn't really have a conversation because mind you, like you did use the voice chat bot, but you used the voice chat bot only as a means to like ask me a question. You asked one question, that was it. Now I guarantee you, after you asked that question and reacted, because mind you, like I'm pretty sure you're not going to tell me what's your account on Reddit or even tell me like what did your reaction was to the video that Vosh made. But I'm pretty sure like it was somewhere along the lines about reforming Vosh or something like that without even watching the video that we created
yeah.
in retrospect of Vosh, right? But like what
Well,
you don't know is
I
that.
mean, like you said,
Mm,
I am a Vosh. I am quote unquote Vosh stan, but well, maybe I'm just optimistic. But when I want to think of the community, I imagine people that would listen to you with an open mind and say, "Hey, you know what? This Bantu Otaku isn't that bad." And in fact, we agree pretty much everywhere.
well, we don't agree because if we agreed on anything, you would agree to dismantle like the Eurocentric leftist platform. Like this is where like this is what I'm saying. Within that month that you've been taking your time off and doing things, I still have to live with this, right? Like Cat Black said, like I'm black 364. I'm black 365 days out of the year, right? Like I can't put down my blackness. I can't put down my issues. You have to engage with our platform if you were supposed to be in any allegiance, alliance, or accomplice to what our initiative, motives, and goals are. But obviously, you don't have that because like it's not wrong with taking a break and taking time to yourself, but you're not even aware of what's going on within this platform or even within this space. So to me, for you to assume that we agree when we don't, because initially we never agreed, but where I'm at right now when it comes to my views on this space and like how people act and maneuver within the space, we really wouldn't disagree because if we agreed on anything, you will understand that Like Vosh is somebody who shouldn't be platformed. Vosh is somebody who like uses his power and wield his like like his influence over smaller black content creators. And me and Scorpio, despite not having resources, not despite not having adequate equipment, we spend at least a good amount of time in our life to like make this video. We spent at least over half of a year to make this video and to get everything organized, and we presented it in good faith. And naturally we was met with a lot of anti-blackness and bad faith. You get what I'm saying? So like our relationship with
the video that you're talking about. The video that you're talking about regarding Vosh, is that the one that runs like 1 to 2 hours in length?
This is a video that runs 3 hours.
Okay, yeah, even more than that. I think the problem is that if you go to like a Vosh community and you post a video that's critical of him, like despite the fact that most fans of him will spend 4 to 5 hours watching his videos, I don't know if all of them are going to spend 3 hours watching a critique of him.
Yeah,
especially
but at the end of the day, that's still the problem though. Because think about it, right? Like if we're documenting the inconsistencies with Vosh and calling that out and highlighting and showcasing these inconsistencies with Vosh, this is like at least a year worth of content, right? Because the whole inciting incident between this, the contention that started this between D and Angel and him, right, was initially a year ago. Now it's almost a year anniversary since that shit happened, and yet and still it's a year later, and he's still having these woke leftist conversations, which even his usage of woke segregation and shit like that is innately anti-black, because if he was even addressing a lot of black people on the political spectrum, he would call them reactionaries. He would say it's socially conservative, but he don't use this language. He deliberately call it woke segregation, and it becomes a meme, and people are making literal locales of black people and black plight with no better understanding of us and no forward conversation or an exchange between us when it comes to ideas. He had a very abysmal understanding of black nationalism and was very dismissive to D. Andrew, who explained it to him. So this is something that has been building.
Can I just get clarification on something? When you said that he used the phrase woke segregation, did you say that a better term would be black conservatives?
No, I said social conservative. As black people within America, most of us end up having to vote for the left, whether we like it or not, due to the motherfucking politics of this country, right? It's either Nazis or moderates, right? So a lot of us wind up having to vote Democrat anyway. But despite us voting Democrat, and a lot of us for our racial issues and a lot of our plight, we tend to be more left-leaning than everyone else, because our changes, our transformative changes for the government is always more left-leaning than anything this country could spit out its ass without us, right? So with that reality set in motion, you also got to take into account that a lot of our people are socially conservative when it comes to certain points and certain perspectives. That's true. Like you can ledger that against interracial and people who engage into saying that they don't want to engage in interracial, but nobody never investigates the power dynamic that's involved with us dating a non-black person. Most non-black people within this country is put up on another caste than us. Most of us are put on a lower caste. Even if you come from wealth and money, you still have to deal with mistreatment and anti-blackness and the power divide between you and your non-black partner. This is not true for everyone, yes, but at best, most of these cases where is an exception is not the rule. You get what I'm saying? So like a lot of people don't investigate that, because if you're dating a white partner, if I'm a queer person, if I'm dating a white partner and my white partner trying to fuck me over and I go to the cops, you think they will really believe me over like my white partner? Right? Like a lot of people don't think about shit like that. Like there's power that's at play with racism and anti-blackness, and a lot of people don't know that. Like how can you be aware of Karens and people who use and weaponize the police against black people, but then when it comes to interracial relationships, you can't see how that dynamic could also play into an interracial relationship. Rather it's a black male, a black woman, rather it's a black woman with a white man, right? Rather it's two non-binary people going together. Like they're still a black person when it comes to their identity dealing with their race, right? They still are going to be put on a lower tier than a non-black person that they're dating. And the fact that people are overlooking that dynamic when it comes to interracial, and a lot of black people opting out because they understand that our society is not progressive, that their partners might not be all that progressive, and they have to condense themselves to a Eurocentric mindset. You will understand innately why a lot of black people don't want to really gear and vibe for interracial. definitely when people fetishize and objectify us just so they can have lighter skinned babies with less curlier hair, with
So
3C,
in terms of
2C hair, right? And I'm
in
not
terms
saying
of
that,
real
huh?
so in terms of relationships, you're saying that colorblindness also isn't possible because there's still kind of
No, I'm not saying
an
that. No,
underlying feeling there.
colorblindness plays a large factor in that. Definitely, if there's somebody who's being raised by a largely like white person, right? Look at Obama, right? Obama was raised by somebody who's non-black, and you see his relationship with our community is highly antagonistic, and we only voted for him because we thought he was going to be for us, but he directly told us that he's not for us and he's not our president, despite us
Yeah.
putting him in office overwhelmingly, despite people who really never voted like that actually getting out the fucking vote for him, right? And you see the same thing with Kamala Harris. A lot of us had a very antagonistic relationship with her too, but at the end of the day, she's there. She's our token symbol, right? People use people who are African Americans against Black Americans, not realizing that there's a distinct ethnic background that separate us from them. Because at the end of the day, Obama have no ties to people who were enslaved within this country, no different than Kamala Harris. Both of their parents is both or though both of their parents are not from this country, so their ties to our oppression and our plight is only through intellectual, educational benefactors. And as you can tell, they engage with that even in a disingenuous way. They go as far to even deny us from reparations and whatnot. And we see this amongst other people who try to identify as mixed and not as black, despite most of us as Black Americans being mixed to a certain degree, but identifying as black because ever since enslavement, right, we was always identified, whether you were lighter skin or darker skin, you still was treated like a black person. So out of solidarity, we all identify as black and nothing more, nothing less, despite us realizing that we're distinctly mixed with different heritages and ethnic backgrounds, right? Like you got all types of Black Americans that are mixed with Asians, that are mixed with different types of white people, that are mixed with different, you get what I'm saying? Like we're mixed with a good amount of people who, like
So
when
in
people
terms
talk
of
about it.
So in terms of race as like a social construct, people see dark skin and they say, okay, he's black. They don't look at Obama and say, oh, he's 50% white, 50% black. They just see
No, they
they
look
just
at
see
him
the
like
dark
he's a
skin.
black person, and they look at him like he's a
Yeah.
black person, right? Despite his black politics not reflecting that on a social level, right? So you see how this works. Like to us, socially speaking, he do maneuver as if like he's like a non-black person, right? And to be honest, I'm not here to demonize that, but he's not for us. But people make it seem like he is and weaponize and tokenize him against us in that manner in a very disingenuous way, while still posing to be very colorblind when it comes to their analysis of race within his country, which is innately anti-black. Being colorblind is just a centrist way of saying that you don't want to validate the oppression of our people within this country, because we built and made this country. We made this country what it is on Native American land, and this is something no one could deny or refute. You know what I'm saying? But this
Yeah.
is not the content that's being held. This is not the conversation that's being had amongst people within these communities, right? It's about, oh, black people just want woke segregation because they're not really for interracial relationships. Instead of investigating why, right? Like instead of using your journalistic integrities or whatever the fuck you want to call it within this influencer entertainment medium as a means to investigate why and understand why people hold these views. What environmental social factors are at play that make people come to these conclusions, right? Like you spend your whole platform like reforming reactionaries, but if a black person have an opinion that is innately social conservative on any aspect, you don't want to investigate why or see if you can reform that or change that. Nah, because when it comes to black people, we're just vilified as villains and bad guys. But when it comes to literal Nazis, people on the alt-right and anti-SJWs, they get all the charitability and they should be the priority of converting, because this is literally Vosh's platform. That's innately anti-black, and he perpetuates that. He's not even willing to invest and engage with the topic enough to even see what is the proper way of addressing people like that in our community and what our community's views on people like that is, right? Like, you get what I'm saying? Like that, it to me, it don't rubs off right. Definitely when you're spending your time on Twitch, on YouTube, right, with the equipment to actually talk on a microphone and document and record your experiences while you're talking to somebody who's on Twitter who don't have the same equipment and leverage you do, better yet influence, right? Like you're getting paid at least $2,000, $3,000 a month from Patreon alone to do this shit. to literally like harbor anti-blackness and tokenize yourself within the realm of the Eurocentric as our ally, as our accomplice, when you're really not that, and we don't really like you.
Yeah.
This is why this space needs to be dismantled, because they're profiting off of black death and oppression. They're arguing on the behalf of Black Lives Matter and other things to white people while in reality not actively supporting them. He have had multiple instances where he said negative and very irate things about Black Lives Matter. A lot of our own people don't agree with Black Lives Matter, but our takes on that tends to be very nuanced, and we still understand the importance of it. But when people from that space, they don't get that, and that nuance is never held. And this is the problem that we have when people on the Eurocentric left try to talk about race. It's always bad. It's always inherently Eurocentric and have an anti-black connotation. It's tend to be done with tokens and people who are seen as the good black people, not the black people that they disagree with, that they sit there and actively platform when they're attacking them on Twitter. But when it goes beyond engagement, beyond that platform, it's not there. They have these Reddits where people are literally reciting the very same rhetoric that he's reciting, and on any and all instances, he never actually addressed like the ills of what he done wrong with black nationalism. And personally, I don't want to reform people like Vosh, Destiny, Surfs, bitch. I don't give a fuck who they are, bitch. Like, to me, they all need to be dismantled. They have no functional purpose right now. It's 2021. It's a different America. Trump no longer is in office. The alt-right and anti-SJWs are prominent, yes, but not as bad as it once was, right? So to me, I feel like they fulfilled their utility and should move on to making other content other than political content, because they're not serving us as like allies on any level or in any matter. They're not helping promote or spotlight our issues to any degree. And out of anything for us as black Americans, like, it now is more pivotal of a time to help us out than any other time. And like that is not there, because his priority and his issue with black people is woke segregation. Like that whole term in itself is just a very negative term. And the fact that that term might get popularized and solidified is dangerous, because now you're creating rhetoric in reference to black people that's akin to the word hoteps. And even I don't even like the way that intellectual conversation went down, because like from what I know from the background information and the work I've been doing, because I've been involved with this way longer, he only did that as a means to tokenize intellectual media. Most people don't understand that because they haven't been following the interaction between Vosh and other black people within these spaces. He wasn't really all that invested in her content and what she was doing. He was more so invested in getting her consent to say that he can actively criticize black people and talk to black people about issues he know nothing clearly about. And even the way he framed it was very disingenuous, because if he really had a problem with Farrakhan and people from the Nation of Islam, I'm pretty sure with his size platform, he have no problem talking to people like that if he have time to attack Breonna Joyce Gray and Amelia Omar daughter and shit like that. Like, if you had that much time to attack people like, but no, you're not going to do that, right? You're not going to comfort people like that, right? Like, you don't even address people like that as if they're reactionary. Well, personally, go ahead.
Just regarding your content, like, I mean, I started watching.
Before you go into my content, did you watch any of my content outside of the Vosh video? Because technically that's not my video. That's Scorpio's video. I just helped produce it, right?
I started checking out some of the various YouTube links and the live streams that were being linked on r/breadtube. Just to see what was going on.
Right, but like, are they you talking about links from me, or links that just are in our breadtube? Like, specifically, you get what I'm saying?
I think they were from you, but I think they were in our breadtube. And what I noticed was just kind of there was not a negative response, but there was not a positive response. It was just kind of like, this exists, let's ignore it.
Right, but that in itself is a negative response. Like, it's a very colorblind take, because you don't want to deal with the reality of race, or the fact that people that you support or invest your time and energy into is engaging in said anti-blackness. So thus you're dismissing the black issues and black plight, right?
Yeah,
not to say that you have to immediately watch it, but like, whether people like it or not, these conversations come up. So we see these same people engaging in a conversation when it benefits them to make us into locales. But when it comes time for them to actually hear us out from our perspective, or our platforms and our voices, they don't engage, they don't invest, and they better yet ignore it. And if they do engage in it, they don't watch the content, and they come and tell us how they feel, so they can walk away from it.
I'm not going to say that I was any better, because there wasn't a peep in the comments, and I didn't add anything to it either. It's just something that I noticed. That
right. All you did was
I don't
serve to
know
make
how
it.
to.
All you did was serve to fall into the trappings of what it was. Like that's all I'm saying. Like you're not even aware that what you're gauging in is anti-blackness, and this is the problem with the space. How can you be converted? How can you prioritize your platform to converting people? Use like how can you like prioritize your whole platform upon white identity politics and converting people out of the far right when you can't even help these people dismantle or even recognize what anti-blackness is and how their behaviors play a part of that. Better yet, addressing other issues with other minorities like trans people and Native Americans and other like ethnic groups of people and other minority groups. You get what I'm saying? So to me, like there's no true utility other than aesthetically putting on this, like aesthetically changing people who's on the far right and giving everyone the veneer that they're on the left, when the reality at best they marginally move to the center right at best. Like that's not, to us, that's not progress. Definitely we can work on communicating with like actual minority groups when you can dedicate your platform to platforming our voices, because like there's information and data out there that goes to show that like people like Vosh, they get platforms, they get more ad revenue due to them engaging in white identity politics, but people who engage into black identity politics don't get ad revenue and get actively shut down by Google, right? Like this is stuff that we like found out on our own from information that's being shared, right? Like there's also a lot of information and stories out about how like a lot of black people who are leftists or who are getting shut down and deplatformed. In many instances, Vosh and his platform spearheaded the deplatforming of a lot of black leftists, specifically around the time like the protests was occurring. And he don't understand that. Like his fan base and people that are his followers, amongst other like bread tube, left tube, debate bro, dirtbag leftists, and whoever other group you want to call them, who engage in white identity politics or Eurocentric, leftist beliefs, right? Like all these people have engaged in anti-blackness and also actively had they encouraged their fans to deplatform us or to defend them without actually taking into account or critically thinking about what they defend in Vosh 1, right? He just tell them to defend them, right? And he uses his parasocial relationship and his fans' intimate knowledge of his point of view and use it as a means to like wipe over our counter narratives and our general perspective, which is criticizing his perspective. You get what I'm saying? So like there's no
Yeah. Well,
reforming him. There's no
for
reforming somebody who been engaging in this shit for over a year. You get what I'm saying?
yeah. Well, if I can comment on how I see things, being somebody that followed Vosh's streams specifically for a little while now, including last month and well before that, I see two things. Number one, I don't think that he ever tried to demonize black nationalism. I know that he did at first. I know that he
No,
genuinely
he
fucked
did.
up in
No,
those
he
first
did. No,
conversations.
no, no. That's what he did. That's what happened. There is no like good faith with this, right? Like what you're engaging in is basically PR for Vosh's side, because I'm pretty sure you're not even acutely aware of our perspective, nor have taken the time to engage and invest in it. Even if I sat here and spent like hours on end to explain to you this in intimate details, right? Which in reality I don't really feel like repeating myself, right? Because to avoid repeating
Yeah,
myself,
well,
this is why the content is out there. The content is out there to avoid me repeating myself. But even if I did put in the time to actually tell you this and break this all down to you in a very small, minute term, you're still going to come away from this thinking that Vosh can be reformed and he's not that bad of a guy. And that's
yeah.
the issue. That's the problem. You're going to come up with excuses for him, but when it comes to us and our views and our beliefs, even if they are reactionary, even if it is X, Y, and Z, there is no reformation for us. There is no saving for us. We're just bad guys, and we're the
uh,
people who are working against our own causes. People tell us that all the time. That even the work that me and Scorpio is doing, that like is working against our own means, because we're not bending our knee to their views and their perspective, which is largely Eurocentric, right? Like this is the issue
Yeah.
and the problem. Like if
I,
we
I
if
mean,
me and you was to be agreeants of anything, then you will agree with me into dismantling the spaces, but you don't want to, right? Because like to you, you think there's reformation that can be done. You think that Vosh can recognize the ills. To me, I tell you this, it's literally the empathetic fallacy, right? Like I'm pretty sure you don't read CRT, so this is why I have screenshots of this, right? Or I could show you literally, I could literally show you literally like how the empathetic fallacy works, right? Like, and it's the idea that like just by sharing a narrative with this person, with an individual, that like it immediately is going to change their mind or perspective with how they engages with things, right? So
I mean,
boom,
you do have me there. I haven't read any critical race theory yet.
right.
I
But
have I
but in
have heard of
exchange,
it
but
anecdotally,
look,
and it
hear me
sounds
out.
valuable.
Hear me out though,
Sorry.
right? Read this with me, right? Like you see, I brought it up right there, right?
Yeah.
Right, check that out. Read that. You want to read it out loud, or you want me to read it?
Is this believing that one can change a narrative by offering an alternative narrative in hopes that the listener's empathy will quickly and reliably take over? Empathy is not enough to change racism, as most people are not exposed to many people different than from themselves, and people mostly seek out information about their own culture and group. Yeah,
You
that's
get what
kind
I'm
of the
saying?
bread tube
That's
too white
that.
kind of thing going on.
This is what I'm saying. This is what you're engaging in, though. What you don't know it, but what you're engaging is the empathetic fallacy when you play into these tropes of Vosh can be saved. Like in reality, you're just doing PR for your own people. You're doing PR from people of your own background because it only benefits y'all. In reality, like our goal is to dismantle it because no matter how empathetic we are, no matter how we try to reach out and reform these people, no change
All
is
right.
genuinely going to occur. Like I said, like this
Well,
dynamic with Vosh has been going on for at least over a year, right? This has been going on
okay.
for over a year, and he's been trying
Well,
to
can I
highlight people that he see as reactionary and socially conservative, and try to like make them into
can I
locales, and they ain't it.
can I preface this by saying I don't want to say that Vosh is good or that I recommend Vosh based on this. All that I can say is my own personal experience regarding his content. And my personal experience regarding his content was before I listened to Vosh, I thought that nationalism, every kind of it, was just inherently bad. I associated the word nationalism with ethno-nationalism, division, just straight up evil. When I heard it, I
Right.
just thought white nationalism, but whatever. That's
I get
prior
that,
to
but
listening to Vosh
did you
ever.
take the time? Did you take the time out of your life to engage with the concepts of Black nationalism, the originators of Black nationalism, what Black nationalism has evolved into? Because largely people don't really identify as Black nationalism. At best, you get people who say they are pro-Black. You get people who are say that they are woke. Right. This is why Vosh usage of woke segregation is such a fucking problem. Right. Because like Black nationalism as a term has become a hot subject due to like Eurocentric views on nationalism. Like your views on nationalism is largely Eurocentric due to your background as probably a white person or a non-black
Yeah.
person
Well,
who engages in
so
white identity politics. You get what I'm saying? So like you're
as a white person, white nationalism has been like
right.
the
So
vast
like keep
majority
in
of my
mind the
experience with
fact
that.
that y'all look at white nationalism and think that's the only form of nationalism or any form of nationalism out there got to be akin to y'all's. That's Eurocentric. That's where the anti-blackness come in because how are y'all our allies? How can y'all help us as accomplices when y'all don't even understand our philosophical concepts? And these concepts have been around in actively full form for at least over 100 years now. Like Marcus
Yeah.
Garvey existed at least 100 years ago. It's past his anniversary in many cases for many of his achievements. It's over 100 years now, and mind you, like Martin Delaney is one of the first people who's actively documented as a black nationalist, and this man was hopping out of enslavement with this shit, right? And a lot of context with these people aren't even expressed in a nuanced form, and black people who actively cover these people aren't even supported, right? Like if you check out this thread actively breaks down how like a lot of us as like black content creators and people who engage in what is perceived as black identity politics aren't supported by YouTube. YouTube actively like deplatforms and de-incentivize us by removing us from the ability of receiving ad revenue. It removes us from the algorithm because the algorithm don't perceive us as a priority because this is still a capitalist system and a capitalist platform that prioritize getting that ad money, that ad revenue. And as somebody who is using white identity politics as a means to quote unquote convert people and raise awareness to leftist issues, he leave our issues untouched. And when he do engage with our issues and plights is usually in a very highly antagonistic Eurocentric view with no nuance and no understanding. And even when he realized he was wrong, he tried to shift it to make it seem like he was going to focus on reactionary black nationalists or people who are innately social conservative, but he can't even formulate the language to even describe those experiences despite dealing with reactionaries and socially conservative white people. Like, I find it funny that I can identify the fact that he deals with reactionary and socially conservative white people, but he can't even take that analysis and that lens and that language and just and swap race out, right? Because if people wasn't so adverse to identity politics and intersectionality, people will understand that identity is like just because you swap the identity out doesn't mean everything is all the same and is like, you know, applicable in the same manner. And even then, like, you also got to understand that, like, you know, like the environment and how it affects race is like very important too. So like there's like a lot of shit that's going on, right? And like at the end of the day, you're not Vosh, so talking to you is not really going to address the issues with Vosh. But if you're really a genuine supporter ally, if you respect black people, black culture, like, dismantle this space. Tell your friends, dismantle this space. Tell them, watch out for like black content creators who are providing actual criticism, not that lazy Eurocentric leftist analysis that justify what they do and vilify their positions. No, people who are saying dismantle these people. They made money off of black death. They made money off of black protesters. They made money protesting black oppression. Dismantle them. They have no purpose. They have no part. They have no part in this fight. They have no like qualms and no allegiance with our plight. They're not our accomplices. They're not going to help us rob the bank. Like, you know what I mean? Like at best, if they want to make themselves seem like they're accomplices, they no different than the motherfuckers from what's that movie with what's her name in it? Set It is no different than the white cop from Set It Off. You empathize with us, but at the end of the day, you sit there and literally watch at least 3 of us get gunned the fuck down. And the only reason why you let the last person go was just because you know intimately how fucked up shit was. And so like you letting the last person go ain't even helping us in the slightest. Like at best, y'all like, if you was an accomplice, bitch, you help us rob the bank and make sure everybody get the fuck out alive, right? Like to me, no, I don't want to deal with this I don't want to deal with this settled off accomplished shit, this empathetic ally shit. No, like, either y'all gonna do the reading and do the learning publicly and document this and dismantle y'all platforms and de-incentivize y'all profits. Any profits y'all get, y'all forward that to the corresponding people that are oppressed and dealing with tragedy. Like, what's wrong with doing that for at least a good portion of your quote unquote online career? Definitely when you're trying to take yourself to a larger platform with larger influence. You get what I'm saying? Like I don't think a lot of y'all understand that America is so cynical when it comes to influencers that these people can end up being our governors and our fucking Senate members and end up on the House of Republicans and mayors because they engage in white identity politics. They have like keep in mind, Trump literally built his whole career off of being online, no different than Obama. Right? Like, no different than Reagan, who was a fucking actor and had a lot of people in his hearts and minds. So think about Vosh and Destiny and all these other left tubers who are like in the hearts and minds of all these millennials and Zoomers. They're going to get old one day. They're going to inherit their parents' wealth and white privilege from the generations before them. They're going to keep white status quo in line. And these people might be political people who will oppose our literal oppression, despite me being older and them being older. They will uphold the status quo and not help us. At best, we might end up with a socialist, anarchist, anarcho-socialist, whatever fuck they feel for the day, communist fucking country that still is innately anti-black. And the fact that people can't even perceive that as a potential reality is fucking absurd. Because y'all really don't understand anti-blackness. Y'all think anti-blackness would die under like capitalism. Like, when capitalism was removed, anti-blackness is just magically gonna go away. No, the fuck it's not. Like, we're dealing with a methodology and an ideology that have been here since this country's inception and have been here since the literal empire that imperialized at least 90 or 80 something % of the world. You get what I'm saying? So like this is what I'm saying. Y'all not understanding about your own selves. Better yet, like, your own background and how y'all interact with us. That's why, to me, it's very funny that you come into this space and your relationship, like your dynamic in here is to shit post about red pills. And like, to me, whether you're being funny or not, I don't find that shit funny. Because it's like, no, stop posting. And yet you still kept posting. And you still kept posting. Then I'm like, can we talk about this? You like, well, I'm buzzed. I can't talk right now. Well, leave. But you don't want to leave, right? So to me, it's very antagonistic. Because you like, well, you know, I shouldn't have to get on your nerves like that. But I shouldn't have to go through this in the first place. You should have enough respect for me to know better, right? Because if you was in the server, you would know that we have a space for you to shit post. And we don't give a fuck if you shit posted in there. But if you did post some weird shit, you still probably was going to get called out anyway. You get what I'm saying? So
I
like
I genuinely have no idea like the full list of your channels or if there are more channels. I look through the rules. I don't
right. No,
think
no,
that
I
I
know
would.
that. Like, yeah, that's not specified, but it's not specified because you're still in the portal. You never engaged with our platform besides that one conversation. That's all it was you seen a
All
video
right.
on BreadTube relevance to Vosh. You had something to say. You didn't want to talk about it publicly, right? So
Okay.
I kind of talked about it. You listened to me, what I had to say about other things evolving this situation, and then you left this space alone. And now you magically suddenly come back one day just to start shit posting. I actively told you not to, and you actively did. You kept going after I told you not to. I even deleted a couple of your posts and everything. And then we had this long ass conversation about everything that was
Uh,
going on.
yeah. Those pictures, by the way, were screenshots from a fellow named Internet Comment Etiquette. He spends most of his time making fun of Ted Cruz. That's
Yeah, but like to be honest, that's not helping us neither. You get what I'm saying? That's our problem. Like y'all give
all
like
right.
America is a capitalist society, right? Like to kind of play into like wisecrack analysis of Animaniacs, the content that y'all watch and engage with is like literally relevant to like what gets big. Like the outrage market is like a relevant thing in this day and age. So like y'all watching right wingers and reacting to right ringers and shit like that only serve white identity politics in the Eurocentric left. Like, you know, it submits y'all as if y'all this force against the bad guys when in reality at best y'all play fucking WWE Monday night Raw in front of our fucking faces and pull the wool over most people's eyes, acting like y'all against each other. When in reality, y'all working in like in this weird what was this in this weird symbiotic relationship where neither is just y'all and a whole fucking media empire off of this, which only serves to empower y'all own people, right? Y'all not here to dismantle these people. Y'all not here to dismantle these right wingers. Y'all not here to even dismantle the anti-blackness within y'all space, the anti-colonial, the anti-Native American, the anti-queer, LGBT, trans narratives within these spaces. That like this is not what y'all are here to do. Y'all are here to only become comfortable within these spaces and make locales out of motherfuckers because it makes you cringe when you see and hear that, but you don't innately understand how these things actively work on a minute level and how that is even how it's even intensified once you start adding us into the equation, right? Like let's be real,
Well,
like
yeah.
a lot of y'all don't watch black content creators. A lot of y'all don't watch black content creators that talks about race, that talks about intersectionality, that talks about intersectional identities and how class
Well, yeah.
involves with race
Can
and
I
race
can
goes
I
with
talk on
gender.
that? By the way, you said you were concerned about being made into a joke or a lolcow in the
No,
community,
I
right?
said what people do. They ain't my concern. Like I don't give a fuck how y'all feel about me. I
Yeah.
know people. I know people done told me already that everyone thinks I'm the joke of the leftist space. And
Yeah. Yeah.
personally, I
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
care.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Can I?
I'm not Eurocentric in the slightest, and I don't vie for y'all attention. But at the end
But
of the
but I
day, the
but I,
fact
wa- I
that
want to
y'all are
get into
making
that for a second,
but like that's
if
not the
that's
pri.
all
But
right.
like, listen, that's not the. I mean, we could talk about it if you want, but to me, that's not the priority, right? The thing I'm trying to get across to you, if you leave from this conversation, is that dismantling the space is the priority. That is the initiative. Like y'all making us into locales is feeding into the anti-black narrative and only reaffirming the myth of the home of the hotep. Right? Most of y'all motherfuckers don't even know about emotep culture. Don't know about Black Americans who are emoteps. Y'all don't understand the whole like the Afrocentric scholarship that goes in that, or if you want to call it, you know, the Egyptology, right? Like a lot of motherfuckers don't even understand that background. So I don't even like how people are trying to make people into hoteps when in reality they're trying to describe like reactionary black nationalist and socially conservative behaviors. To me, those words are more adequate and is more effective and efficient in its analysis versus calling somebody this blanket hotep term, which has been co-opted from AAVE from since its inception. And even then, the way we use it amongst our communities was just to colloquially address a political and social phenomenon within our spaces that actually wasn't full formed and actually really painted in the same way in with the language that I'm using now today. You get what I'm saying? So like, I don't really care about that whole locale shit. Like, the moral to the story is like this whole, like, if you watch ContraPoint's video about shame, like, or cringe, if you watch like ContraPoint's video about cringe, like, this is what this space does. It is no different than what the space of the alt right anti SJWs did. Y'all make shit into locales and y'all make yourselves feel good because y'all not like them. Y'all don't do the same things y'all do. It makes everyone cringe, and that's where the comedy comes in at. That's where the fun comes in. Y'all intimately document instances and people in certain communities and sections of society and actively make fun of them and spotlight them, and when the time comes. But when it comes to our community, is innately anti-blackness because our community is hyper visible and is hyperly policed, and that's actively what these communities do. They provide unnecessary visibility to us and police us on our views without intimately knowing what these issues and topics about or actively engaging with us.
Well, I really don't want to do that. I mean, it's just the two of us.
Yeah, you didn't
And
you didn't want to do that, but that's what you did. That's what you engaged in. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, I definitely I did fuck up there for sure. But
Right.
that's
And like, the question is
but
not the
like
fact that you fucked up, is what you're going to do after you fucked up, right? Are you going to read into critical whiteness? Are you going to read into CRT? Are you going to engage
critical
with
race
these
theory. Yeah.
materials? Right, exactly. Are you going to engage in this? Are you going to form yourself on black nationalism? Are you going to read into Martin Delaney? Are you going to understand the nuances of Marcus Garvey? Are you going to read into like the Black Panthers and not just the popular ones, right? Are you going to look into political prisoners that are locked up and who still need to be set free, whether they Panthers or Mamiya or many other political prisoners from other
The
like
Panthers
leftist
are still
movements?
locked up.
Yes, like this is what I'm saying. And y'all leftists, y'all are fucking accomplices and allies. Y'all are tokenized to motherfucking Nazis. But y'all don't understand that there's still people locked the fuck up, but there's fucking blockbuster movies out here for these motherfucking people. Like, y'all don't understand that. Like, we're real life people who still being fucking oppressed and murdered to this day. To this day. What? Somebody just was found dead in Texas, right? Like, somebody is on trial, and then somebody who fucking mother is literally like relevant to the next person who got shot out in the same area as fucking George Floyd. You get what I'm saying? Like, we're an actual real life group of people who's being actively oppressed. Like, still to this day, with political prisoners still locked up for the shit that everybody like to celebrate about the Black Panthers and all these other groups, but then they would adamantly detest and talk shit about black nationalism. Like, what are y'all doing for the black kid community? Like, let's be real. I'm not fond of like Farrakhan, despite my backgrounds coming like from that and whatnot. I'm not all that fond of that space like that due to a lot of rhetoric. But at the end of the day, what are y'all doing for the community that they ain't doing? Like, I'm pretty sure Farrakhan and them probably will help me out in many instances that y'all won't. Rather I agree or disagree with them. You get what I'm saying? Like, they would probably do a lot more for black people that look like me than y'all would. And this is where the distinction come in. How can y'all try to dismantle these people within our spaces that y'all think are socially conservative and reactionary? We all are not even doing nothing for us. Y'all not helping us out in the slightest. So to a lot of us, like, Farrakhan is more of a like of a better alternative than anything else. Like, I literally spent time on my YouTube to like organize things into a playlist so things are easily consumable for a lot of people within these groups and spaces, because I know innately a lot of y'all don't actively engage with us. So I literally like spent time out of my life to make playlists. I spent time out of my life to make like videos documenting these experiences.
Wait,
and have to tolerate this
I've-
anti-blackness so y'all can understand this shit, so y'all can understand
I-
where y'all wrong. Like, check out these videos.
I think
right?
I've
Like,
either seen or bookmarked that the playlist that you have, and that's
right, but
actually
it
a
ain't
really
about
good one.
bookmarking. Like I said, like Cat Black said, we are black 365 days of the year. In her video, where she talked about motherfucking what is Grayskull, what was that they them Jeffree Star, when she was talking about Jeffree Star and performative activism and engagement with our community. Like, we're black 365 days of the year. That means this is some shit we can't turn the fuck off, and y'all have to actively engage with us on a daily basis. Not to say that y'all gotta dedicate every moment of your life to us. Y'all got lives too, but at the end of the day, if y'all are accomplices and allies, right, like, and you would think you would give a little bit more time to that, definitely, since we're actively being oppressed, murdered, killed, and fucking genocide, right? Like, whether it's environmental, rather it's intellectual, rather it's educational, right? Rather it's through the motherfucking prison industrial complex, rather it's through over policing, right? Like there's a lot of anti-blackness that is normalized within this country, and nobody within those spaces are willing to actually address that because people rather address class than race. People push class reductionism as if it's fucking candy during Halloween, and a lot of us ain't for the treats because we know that shit ain't nothing but poison. That shit ain't benefiting us in the slightest. You get what I'm saying? And like people like don't engage with this narrative in a good pretenses. So this is leading us to war with other groups of leftists and left leaning people because we know of their inconsistencies and flaws too. So this is kind of giving us more flack and making us alienated in the community. Despite every time somebody want to bring criticism to Vosh, they come to Scorpio and his tweets. Whenever they got a problem with the fuck that's going on with Vosh and other left tubers, they come to us. They come to us. Y'all come to us when y'all want to address them, but y'all don't want to dismantle them. But whenever they make y'all mad, y'all come to us and utilize our work as a bludgeon against them. But don't actively use that work as a means to dismantle them as what we intended. This is how we get liberalized. This is how black movements and black people like get like, you know, the neoliberal treatment, right? That white moderate, you know, order decay, you know, like order over, you know, the fucking like dismantle of the system. Y'all not helping us. This is what I'm trying to tell you. Like, I can tell you about this all day. I know I'm still engaging in an empathetic fallacy by telling you this, but that's why I'm documenting this. I'm documenting this so
I do appreciate it.
Right.
I don't want to waste your.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to waste your time.
Well, like you're not wasting my time, right? Because like maybe you can tell other people if you're really trying to help out, and we really agree, right? Like if you really agree and you're really trying to help out, you will also help dismantle this space too, right? You can't take down a house overnight, but you can dismantle it board by board every day.
I can tell you on principle, I am vehemently opposed to class reductionism.
Well, to me, that's not enough, though. Like, this is what you're not understanding. To me, that's not enough. Like, the end goal, the end game at this moment in time is to dismantle the Eurocentric left entirely. It means all these motherfuckers with platforms, all these motherfuckers with spaces, they all got to fucking go.
How that looks simple. Might be a conversation for another day. All I can really do.
But like I'm gonna tell you this, like that conversation for another day is a problem because we don't always have time for a conversation for another day. To me, that's a privilege, but like I digress, right? So like, you know, other than that, that's all I really have to say. Yeah. I mean, you can still leave this space if you want to, because like it seems like you still don't have the time or the, you know, the stamina to actually try to work towards getting in this space. And at the rate that you're moving at, I don't really think you're going to get into the space at that rate. You're going to be stuck in a portal like all these other people. Because think about it, like look at the right of this server. There's a lot of people who are just stuck in limbo. They never even tried to engage with the space to make it in here, but yet they are here. Yet they just here in limbo because they do the same shit you do. So understand that you are doing something that is no different than the rest of them. And all of y'all come from Destiny, Vosh, BreadTube, LeftTube, and other fucking Eurocentric platforms. A lot of y'all come from these spaces. So all these motherfuckers that are with the applicant hashtag, yes, this is why that shit is like this on the side, to show you how many of y'all are comfortable with just being in close proximity to us, but not actively engaging and actively interacting with us.
All right. Well, I mean, all I can do is tell you what I thought. I mean, this is prior to any conversation.
No. Like I said, if you want to do something, you should work on dismantling the space. Period. Like, there's no discussion after that. That's just it. Like, if you want to help me out, otherwise, it's just self-serving and rationalizing your perspective. You get what I'm saying?
I don't want to rationalize anything. I just want to act as an informant. I want to tell you what I've seen and what I've started believing.
Right, but like,
and if that can be of any value to you whatsoever, I hope it can.
I will listen to it. I will listen to you. I will listen to it. But at the end of the day, like, I know it's not going to be of any value because it's not working towards my agenda. It's not working towards my means. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'll try to keep this to 30 seconds. All right.
It don't matter. I got all day, you know? That's why I make time to talk to you, right?
Maybe, but it is getting close to my bedtime. So it's basically two things. Number one, after whatever you would call Vosh's black nationalism arc, I was more amenable to the idea of black nationalism than before he started it. I know he fucked up tremendously at the very beginning, but afterwards I started thinking to myself, you know what, black nationalism, not actually that bad. Maybe I should start listening to people that talk about that. Number two, out of two, and this is it. I know Vosh has a beef with Scorpio. That well might be poisoned. I I hope he comes back to this talk again, but I think that just on a personal level, that his fans are going to be like, oh yeah, Scorpio, oh that crazy guy that Vosh had a disagreement with, because inherently, like these debate bros create friends and enemies. He's just under the enemy category at this point, but I don't think
Right,
he's
but like
anywhere
I got shoehorned into
near.
that category too, and I'm not Scorpio. So your
But
analysis is like I understand your analysis, but it still don't apply because anybody who's black who got an oppositional opinion or a counter narrative to his stance is immediately seen as an enemy. Like we literally have like him on like he's literally on record telling his fans to search up his name and defend him against anybody who speaks against him. This at this point in time is no longer rhetoric versus rhetoric. It's us fighting against somebody who has a dogmatic view on his beliefs. It's dogma at this point in time because now he's no different
I'm
than
really
like the
not a
Christian
fan
church.
of. I'm not a fan of idolizing any one person, whether it be
Right.
Marx or whether it
That's why
be
I said there's
Bosch.
no reformation. There's only dismantling, right? Because if you don't idolize this person, right? If you don't agree with his views and beliefs, then what's so hard about dismantling him? Why should we leave that infrastructure, that institution intact? Because at this point in time, Vosh is representative of an online institution. He's representative of internet infrastructure. The infrastructure the bread tube community have created is an ecosystem of Eurocentrism and anti-blackness in itself. Thus, we must dismantle this if y'all are truly accomplices. Better yet, allies or whatever the fuck y'all want to call yourselves nowadays, right? This is what I'm trying to convey to you. So if you leave from this conversation, if you trying to work and going yourself or anything like that, you should work and you should look into critical whiteness studies. Look into critical whiteness studies, but read into things that like discuss whiteness and the atrocities of the white proletariat. You should look into things that discuss CRT. You should look into like black oppression. You should look into ways that we tried to like overcome black oppression and the many means that we adapted to making things better for us, despite it might being the best solution or the perfect remedy to a literal white supremacist infrastructure, a global power. You get what I'm saying?
This stuff
Look and
actually
read
sounds
into the
like
shit.
it's. This sounds like it's the antithesis to class reductionists claiming that they are the true Marxists. This sounds like this is the opposite, the antidote.
I mean, if you take it that way, then I guess so. All I know is like you should look and read into this more into what they say. Pull
Yeah.
yourself away from these communities. Pull other people away from those communities. Right? Like everybody, like have empathy and compassion. To hold their fucking hands out the fucking Goku when it comes to the alt right and converting these motherfuckers. I don't see what's wrong with y'all converting energy and effort to pull
Well,
motherfuckers energy into the Goku spirit bomb for fucking black nationalism and motherfuckers who trying to really help us out with our fight. That's the way I look at it. So like
well,
that's just how I see it.
when it comes to like leftist communities on Reddit and the larger online left, it seems like people that drift towards being tankies or class reductionists are just immediately willing to dismiss every black issue entirely out of hand. Like, oh no, let's
But that's
not
not
worry
true
about
because
whatever.
we ran into liberals who do the same thing. Excuse me. We ran into
Yeah,
liberals, rat libs. They do the same thing the Tinkies are doing, right? Like you get motherfucking centrists who are sock dems and push class reductionism none the well. No different than the Mike from PAs, right? Like we've been there for the Mike from PA incident and the ICO situation and how that panned out. Like we have been documenting and seeing and calling out a lot of anti-blackness in this space. We try to defend a lot of black people within these realms,
I
and a
think
lot
the
of people
problem,
have been like underestimating us and our work despite our
so the
analysts
problem is that
being correct.
black, so the problem is basically that in terms of so many issues, leftists just suck. Most of them do. The loudest ones anyway.
Nah, all of them do. Like definitely if they're not questioning the if they're not questioning the utility of the space and how the utilities and the resources within these spaces is being allocated to those who are really in need. Right? Like the way I look at it, this should be a priority. There's a priority of needs. If your priority of needs put white identity politics, converting alt right and people like at the top, if that's in your top 5, top 10, you're part of the problem. It's just that simple. Right? When you're trying to come up with excuses and justify and vilify people who do shit like that, you're also part of the problem too. If you was really trying to get away from the alt right, you would be doing the research. You would be looking up into it. You'd be trying to distance yourself away from it. Because when you're black and queer and you come from a reactionary or socially conservative background, you can't ask questions. The best you can do is run away or get exiled. We don't have these. We don't get the privilege to weigh our options out. Many of us have to leave. Many of us have to just go off into the world not knowing what the fuck our future is or what opportunities lay bare before us, which is none in many cases, right? But when it comes to some reactionary, y'all can't make these leaps to cut off these relationships. Y'all can't take these bounds. But when it comes to us, we have to cut off our families and friends because they reactionary, socially conservative. Like, to me, there's no fairness. There's no justice. It's like Sren said, like, there's no fairness in this shit, right? The way we have to treat socially conservative and reactionaries is not the same way y'all have to treat them. And the fact that y'all treat them and humanize them is part of the problem, because when somebody who is fucking reactionary shooting kills people in the church or shooting kills other minority groups of people, they get fed cheeseburgers. They get treated like they're not criminals. But when a black person is simply just getting stopped for something they didn't even do, they get shot, and it's called a taser, right? They get left in confinement. They get beaten and abused for less than nothing. And we see this time and time again. We're overly policed. We're hyper visible. Just being of a darker skin tone. You get what I'm saying? Like, there's, like, to me, they don't understand that, like, when they're trying to humanize these Nazis and prioritize them, they're doing the same thing that the government is doing. They're prioritizing their issues, and they're prioritizing white identity politics over black American politics, over a black American agenda. And that's where the issue is, because we can't discuss reparations when you're still trying to justify that the Nazi is somebody who's worth humanizing, when the black person who got killed, murdered, oppressed, dismantled, and dismissed is in the topic conversation, or better yet, brought up. So it's up to us to keep shouting to call their names when y'all claim to be our allies and y'all don't even say their names. Better yet, remember them, or even aware of who and what's going on, or provide visibility with your large platforms. Provide resources, hand over fist, right? That's what I'm saying.
Right now, it's going to be hard to remember Alton Sterling and Philando Castile within a few more years.
To be honest, like, it's not that hard for us. Like, for a lot of us, this shit goes back to Emmett Till and all those lynched. This goes back to Red Summer and all those who was massacred, right? Like, we remember. Like, growing up, I remember. Like, Tulsa, Oklahoma was a conspiracy theory in my family, because there was no actual documentation that can be found that discussed Tulsa, Oklahoma. But my family knew about this. My family knew about the MOVE bombing. My family knew about all that has happened for the Red Summer. These are things I grew up with, and it wasn't until I got older that a lot of this has been basically validated by mainstream media, where now they're okay talking about these topics and discussions. So to me, we remember. Y'all don't. And that's what white identity politics is. That it gives y'all the privilege to be colorblind. It gives y'all the privilege to have a revisionist history, a revisionist perspective. That's where the anti-blackness come in at. That's my analysis. That is innately anti-black to be class reductionist, revisionist, or colorblind in the slightest, because it gives you the privilege of dismissing and denying our racial oppression. It gives you the privilege of dismissing and denying what we go through. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, look, here,
it's amazing to me, because
this is
again,
from CRT.
like when
Check this out. Like, it talks about
I go to
revisionist
subreddits like
interpretations.
when I go to subreddits like Stupid Poll, they pride themselves on being the quote unquote true Marxists, but whatever reason they dismiss CRT despite it being a Marxist interpretation of race.
Right, because to them they don't want to deal with race. That's white identity politics. The whole point of white identity politics is revisionist, colorblind, and innately dismissive to black perspectives, right? Like, this is how like there's been a very, like, this is why people promote settlers, because people innately know the white proletariat has never been on our side within this country and have actively worked against us and actively sided with the white elites. This is actively something that they did. Like, even people don't even understand, like, the whole relations of the civil rights. So people use, well, what about the civil rights? But nobody knows that the civil rights was even passed to benefit the U.S., to make them look like they're the good guys, despite them actively working to undo the civil rights that have been achieved and worked for, that people sacrifice their lives about, right? Like, at the end of the day, private schools are still a thing. These institutions that are selective about their education is still a thing. There's still disparities between, like, urban education and, you know, rural education or suburban education, right? Like there's a great, like, education gap, right? Like, there's a huge gap of education between our communities and their communities, and like
Yeah, I've
segregation
heard
is
about
still
the
here.
education
Like
gap, and
to me is
I've
ironic
also
is ironic that people talk about ethno states, but nobody talk about the fact that if you look into Oregon and Washington history, those are literal ethno states. Like nobody talk about how everybody want to call black people like woke segregationists for not wanting to engage in interracial, but the existence of many private educational institutions is a product of like segregation. Like the fact that these Ivy League colleges are birthed off of enslavement of our ancestors who built these schools and educations in the fucking theories that fill their very fucking halls, but at the end of the day, we still kept out of there because of the wealth that we've been snatched and robbed of consistently in this country.
yeah,
You get what I'm saying? So,
yeah.
but woke segregation is the priority. Is the word of the day on the streets. Like, nah, like that shit's not cool.
Well, I'd like to get into it with you a little bit more about what is wrong about the phrase woke segregation in terms of how it
Well, I
pushes
mean,
other
you
things
you
aside.
should you should you should you should understand this without me having to really go into great detail. If you've been listening
Um,
to what I've been telling you, I kind of
Also,
explained it to you in many different
would
ways.
it? Yeah, it was earlier in the conversation, and like I
Right.
said, brain not working too good. Okay. I
Well,
know it might
like
be cringe, but have you?
that's why I document this so you can always come back and rewatch this and see
All right.
where your flaws was at, what you missed. So when you
I
come
know this
back,
is gonna be.
like when you come back to
Cr-
this discussion one day, and if you truly made progress, you can re-listen to the shit that you're saying and be like, you know what, I was really wrong here. You know what, I was off on this point. You know what, I wasn't really accurate when it came to this and that. Right? This is how you know that you truly grown. But if you came back to this and you still agree with these talking points and feel like you did nothing wrong, you didn't grow. You didn't learn from this. And at the end of the day, all you did was supplant it and reaffirm and double down in those views and beliefs, which solidifies my perspective on you being part of the problem, right? And only
okay.
vilifies my stance on how these spaces and white identity politics should be dismantled from the American, like, Franca, whatever the fuck you want to call it today, right? So, yeah.
I mean, I'm kind of aware of some of the history that you've gone into, but very unaware of other bits of it. For example, I've researched the Tulsa stuff. I mean, and by researched, I mean just poured through the Wikipedia entry on it, which I
Right.
thought was already pretty
Well, I mean,
incredible.
it's a good read, but if you ask me, Tulsa, Oklahoma is like the sequel to Red Summer, which is the prequel, which is all the violence that happened from World War I soldiers throughout the whole fucking that whole era. Like Tulsa, Oklahoma, literally happened after Red Summer, which is like the Rosewood massacre, the fucking wars and fights that was happening in Chicago. Like what happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma was the culmination of that. And even then, it still was sanctioned by military and government officials. They literally tried to wrap it up. They tried to wipe it away and call it a riot. They tried to like revise. They literally revised history and called it a riot. Like it's up until recently, people started calling it what it was, a massacre. Like people don't even want to admit that us as Black Americans are actively facing a genocide. That we live in third world conditions despite living in a first world country, and you can actively trace that our wealth, that our riches, that our land, that our fucking prospects built this fucking nation. You get what I'm saying? Like this is conversations that people in the Eurocentric left aren't even trying to have. Better yet, shine a light on. Better yet, prioritize. It's not even in a top 5, top 10 issues to contend with because they're just covering everyday motherfucking news, no different than Twitter feeds and algorithms. And then on top of that, like a lot of them, and when I say a lot, I mean a very lot of them prioritize white identity politics, which is like the far right, literal Nazis and right wingers. They're the focal point of their discussion. Y'all don't want to watch movies about black nationalism. Y'all don't want to watch black like Malcolm X speeches. Y'all don't want to listen to Martin Luther King speeches. Y'all don't want to read books by Martin Luther King and get discounts for your fucking audience so they could all get access to these books, all access to these informations. You don't want to listen. You don't want to read The Spook by the Door. You don't want to read The Deacons of Defense. You don't want to read books by Mumia and help get this motherfucker out of jail or get him a better lawyer or something. I ain't really that close, but like something. You get what I'm saying? Like y'all got money. Like niggas is making almost $3,000 off of Patreon, not even counting ad revenue and other ways that motherfuckers is banking. Like you can kick money out. ContraPoints is making a lot of money on Patreon too. That bitch probably could kick at least $5,000 to somebody's lawyer fees to get some of these protesters out of jail, to help a lot of these parents bury their dead kids and their missing children that never return. after protesting, after being activists, after marching these streets, right? But y'all leftists, y'all allies, y'all are accomplices, and y'all tokens to the alt right and far right identity politics. Like nah, like to me, due to this country due to the Overton window being fucking shot out in this country, like the reality is all of y'all who think y'all are leftists is really at best in the fucking center. Barely even centering left. Y'all barely touching center left. Definitely when it comes to race. Like y'all definitely ain't touching center left.
Yeah,
Like,
I,
a
I
lot of
mean,
y'all are center right at best. Center right or
I
just
mean,
blatantly right.
I mean, after talking to you, I understand like your frustrations in terms of like looking
Well,
for
like
leftist allies and finding people like Louis Farrakhan to be more uh, amenable,
to be
beneficial to
honest,
you.
the fact that y'all highlight Louis Farrakhan over all the other black people that fought and like died and used their life and sacrificed their peace and their time to like fighting for our people. The fact that y'all highlight Louis Farrakhan more than anybody else is like very dismissive. Even the fact that y'all
Okay,
don't
no,
even do a thorough investigation on Louis Farrakhan life, where the Nation of Islam come from. Even I highlight Noble Drew Ali about how a lot of those groups really talk about sovereignty amongst other issues and how we really need to be represented as a people who are citizens within this country who built and made it. That's very disingenuous. So a lot of black people, Farrakhan sounds way better than a Vosh. Farrakhan sounds
yeah,
way better than the Destiny. Farrakhan sounds way better than these, token blacks that y'all pick and choose from. Like that's just the reality of it. You get what I'm saying? So it makes it hard for
yeah,
a lot of us to even criticize a Farrakhan or a reactionary, whatever reactionary social conservative you want to pull up. It makes it hard for us to criticize them because y'all are white people with power and influence with way more privilege than them that we have to take down first.
well, I mean, that's
Y'all,
because we
y'all,
kind of take it reductively too, right? Where we're like, okay, Democrats are a little bit more left than Republicans. Black people vote for Democrats, therefore black people are more left than Republicans, and we just kind of leave it at that.
Well, like the reality is, this is a very nuanced and not black and white world. You know that like our votes are held hostage by the Democratic Party due to the Republicans and like their harboring of like far right identity politics. But just because like the right engages in far right identity politics doesn't take away that from the left engaging in like white identity politics as well. Like white identity, I look at I look at a lot of structures like a house. There's a front and a back, right? There's the progressive and then social conservative. There's the right and the left, right? And then there's the top and the bottom, right? You get what I'm saying? Like to me, that's kind of how these axes work. It's like a house. You could be in the front of the house. You could be in the back of the house. You could be on the right of the house. You could be on the left of the house. You could be on the top, or you could be at the bottom. And that's generally how a lot of these spectrums work. Like there's a little bit more dimensions than just up, down, left, right. Like to me, there's a fourth dimension to this, right? But to a lot of y'all,
Yeah.
there's the dimensions that y'all deal with is typically two dimensional. There's no third dimension. Better yet, a fourth dimension, right? Because you got to also take into account of how time changes these views and these perspectives. So over time, the front of the house might start eroding away, right? So what is considered the front now is definitely not what the front actually is, right? But just because y'all got used to the front of the house being fucking dilapidated and come through a general side entrance, y'all think the side entrance is the front because y'all got used to, you get what I'm saying? Like y'all don't even apply this type of like dimensional like analysis. Y'all analysis
Yeah.
relies on two-dimensional fucking paper charts and
Yeah, I
line
mean,
graphs.
the 2D political compass is very reductive too.
But meanwhile, I'm
I
talking
know it
about
being
like four
frustrating.
dimensional like compasses, right? Like we gotta take that into account. That like like this is why you get people who highlight Candace Owens talking about, well, the Democrats are just as bad as Republicans. Everybody knows that. Everybody fucking knows that. Right, everybody knows that, but at the end of the day, the fact that y'all will highlight a Candace Owens, the fact that you will highlight some person, Justin Lee Peterson, and make a meme out of that man, like, is that man getting paid for all the niggas running around here yelling amazing? You know what I mean? Like the fact that y'all highlight Jesse Lee Peterson and motherfuckers who said that the Nazis or the Klan gave his grandmother cookies. The fact that y'all sit up there and watch these fucking YouTube videos and look for the most conservative, socially conservative, reactionary person and fucking like beeline for them. Like that is not healthy. That's not good for us. Like you making us into locals. That's the problem. That's the problem. Because how many
I
fucking
don't.
intellectual videos do you actually watch on your YouTube platform? Like how many
I
how
don't
many
think.
videos from Nappy Head, Yoba, how many Seren video? I don't know if y'all want to watch Seren. She's a bit much for a lot of y'all, and like that whole community will tear y'all to pieces among other communities. But that's just what happens when y'all spend a lot of y'all time away from us to the point that a lot of our perspectives and opinions is alien to y'all, and y'all don't want to do the work to work y'all way up to our conclusions. And when somebody is trying to show their work to show you how we got to these conclusions, y'all don't want to sit and listen to that. And it's just not you. It's just y'all in general. But you do play a part in that, being a part of an individual within the white collective. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, I don't think anybody watches Vosh and sees him like take down Jesse Lee Peterson and think, ah, yes, all black people are like this, the same way he wouldn't like take down
No,
Dennis
no,
Prager
no,
and they'd say,
no.
ah, all Jewish
Wait,
people are
wait,
like
wait.
this.
Like that. Like that's what you assume. This is what I'm saying. Like, all of this is your assumptions, right? This is why I be telling you, like, your assumptions kind of don't like have value to me. Like I'm gonna listen to it because you're a human being, right? I'm supposed to like play into it, right? This is a play, right?
But
This is kind of how
I
this works,
mean,
right?
by God,
But
I
at the end
hope
of the
nobody
day,
else watches his videos and thinks that.
that's what they think.
And if
Like,
they
like
do,
think about it. Think about it, right? Brown. If you're familiar with civil rights, Brown versus Board, right? Brown versus Board put black kids in front of dollies, white dolly, black dolly, right? Black dolly gets negative connotation, negative representation. Guess what? Everyone choosing the white dolly. Right, so when you got black people in your audience watching other black people look negative and look bad and look disparaging, guess who they're going to pick? The white dolly, the white person that they're watching on TV, not the black people that you're showcasing, because all you showing them is blackness looking ugly, dingy, dirty, ghetto, woke segregation. Like this, Danny ain't it, Chief. You're not helping us out with black. You're not you're not showing good black representation with your fucking platform. Like you're not giving out 15% for us. Bitch, what are you really doing? You're not helping us in in the slightest. You're not helping push it for our agendas. You stood in the way of reparations to the point that motherfucking Bitter Dose TV had to make a video about the shit that you was doing, right? Like he's fucking he literally pushing like class reductionism with sock dems and sitting with people on the literal right discussing how they're gonna find a way to make reparations about class. Like this is shit that he actually did publicly on record, right? This is shit that we have to sit through and watch and actually document because nobody in y'all spaces have the critical fucking thinking or deductive reasoning to come to your own fucking conclusions and think for yourself. So now we gotta fucking formulate this shit in content that we're not probably going to be able to monetize and get paid for because it's black identity politics, right? And make this into like easily digestible content for y'all in short attention spans, just for y'all not to engage with it on the slightest. But you pick it up and use it whenever y'all want to call him anti-black. I find it funny that the only time that like tweets dealing with the tweets that we have on record dealing with Vosh and his anti-blackness only pops up whenever he's being anti-black. But once he's not, once the attention died down, once the trending stopped, y'all don't talk about that shit no more. Y'all don't actively dismantle him. Y'all just keep bringing that shit up. Vosh anti-black. Vosh anti-black. We're past that. Like, we're not, in our focus ain't even for Vosh. It's for the whole Eurocentric left. Because if you've been following us, like we've been documenting a lot of shit that the whole community's been doing. This is why we're documenting this. Because this is a counter narrative. Right? Like, okay, we're not writing books no more. We got to update the platform, right? So what's better than this platform that we're on now called YouTube and actually using, vocal conversations as a means of documentation? I mean, this is how the, Eurocentric left try to justify their positionality when it comes to, being on the left. Oh, I'm here and I'm validated because I argue with alt-righters. I volunteer my time and my attention to people on the far right to show them how much of a doofus and cringy they are so other white people could come over to the other side. Well, I'm here to show people like, yeah, these spaces need to be dismantled. If you're a part of it, you're part of the problem. If you're watching it, you're part of the problem. Attention is economy and so is outrage. If you're constantly getting outraged and tweeting about these people but not tweeting solutions and trying to help people, you're part of the problem. If you're not highlighting how people are not engaged with the solutions, like tell them they're part of the problem too. Like what Sren said, people always talk shit about her and her analysis when it comes to Bruno Mars and Drake, but when she's tweeting out solutions and helping supporting other real light black content creators, nobody's there to watch that shit. Nobody's there to watch the good shit, but they there for the drama. That's part of the problem with these platforms and people engagement with these spaces is always in reaction to what you don't like. Everybody want to hate watch something but not watch something because they support it. Like, I literally have my whole platform dedicated to black content creators. So people don't have no excuse to say, I can't watch black content creators. I can't find any. Well, bitch, I got playlists full of black queer content
Yeah.
creators from a
And I've gone
spectrum of
through your
political
playlists
beliefs.
and even dropped in a couple of your streams, and that's basically what you're doing, and that's great.
Right. Like, definitely,
Especially,
and this is just what I'm doing to supplement from the fact that I knew, without even the proper information, I knew that we were being silenced. I knew that we were being taken out of the algorithm. I knew that ad revenue wasn't coming our way. I knew this without needing like confirming information, because I know how anti-blackness works. I live this life. I don't need confirmation to justify my views, because I know how this country works, and it's always the same beat, the same drum, just with new fucking technology, and that's just the way I see it. Like, y'all not about to gaslight me out of my fucking oppression. Sorry, that's not how this works over here.
well,
So I take a different
well, I mean,
stance.
no
And I look
matter
a
what
little weird to
happens, I
some
hope
y'all.
you're able to get the YouTube algorithm to actually pay attention to
It's
you.
not. It's
I,
not.
I
Like,
mean,
the reality is YouTube, even if we do find a way to get YouTube to pay attention to us, as a lot of black content creators has always done, YouTube find a way to change that. That's what y'all don't understand. Like, that thread I linked into the chat literally talks about that. It talks about that. All the shit I'm linking into you is to provide evidence
well, yeah,
to back
and
my
also
arguments.
afterwards, if you had like resources for a critical race theory, I'd be interested in
No,
that
you could
too,
Google that.
because
You could Google that shit. You could easily look that shit up. That shit probably easily
oh,
available online and everything. Yes. See,
oh,
that's the whole
sure,
point.
but like if you have anything like a favorite video or book or
Like, to be
documentary or anything
honest,
like that.
like, I don't like, I didn't told you all the key words and key phrases. I told you look into critical whiteness study, right? This is what the bulk of this hour-long conversation has largely been about. So, like, I know you do have a Google and you can use it, and like, I'm not here to be a magical Negro and or the person to actually teach you, and even what I'm doing can be perceived as me compromising my own self to like pander to you and your views. So,
I
like, it's
do,
up to your
yeah, you are
investment and
correct.
engagement after this, right?
I just
I'm not,
feel
like, you're
I
not
don't know.
Shazam. I'm not the nigga who gives Shazam his powers. Sorry, like, I'm not motherfucking Morpheus from the Matrix neither. Like, I'm not getting paid and or compensated in what way, shape, and form. I can't be your mule. I'm not your mule. You know what I mean? Like that's just not how this works. You got to take the time out of your life to invest and have interest into this. If you walk away
no
from this
problem.
tomorrow and the next day and the next day and the next day and on that SpongeBob next day shit, and you still ain't got interest in engaging and invested in this shit, just know that you're part of the problem. And this documentation will be made public after this conversation, so you can come back to my platform one day and just hear this shit and be like, damn, like, I really don't know what the fuck I was talking about. Like, damn, I really grew from this, right? Like, this is why I make this shit public. This is why I document my experiences with the Eurocentric left. I document my experiences with the Eurocentric left, so one day, if y'all do grow, if y'all do change, y'all can see yourselves in the past and see how much you have changed, see how much you have grown. But if you rewatch this shit in the future and you still feel the same way, you still in the same spot where you at right then and there, just know indefinite, undoubtedly, undefinedly, and indeterminately, you're part of the problem. Like, you're the issue. Like, you're the issue. You're part of the problem, and like what you do literally participates in anti-blackness, because you have not changed and you have not been moved from this point after meeting me. You get what I'm saying? And what I engaged in is literally the empathetic fallacy, because just by telling you this one narrative, this one story, this one this one counter narrative is going to change you just because you listen. No, that's not how this works. Like, it's
Well,
like it's
yeah,
I look at it like
I am
veganism. It's a lifestyle. You got to work towards it every day.
I am interested, primarily in facts over anecdotes, but in terms of critical race theory, that is something that interests me. It's just something
Well,
that
to me,
I
I don't know
haven't
about that
stumbled into
facts
yet.
over anecdotes, because a lot of black documentation is kind of anecdotal in many senses. Like, we are a group of people who deals
Oh,
primarily
yeah,
with
sure,
oratory, right?
but when it
So,
starts to
like,
get
to me,
compiled, it's not like you need to prove
what
a
you think
statistic.
CRT
If
is?
the things are true.
CRT is a culmination of black narratives. It's literally a culmination of like different narratives from people who analyze blackness and like talked about race and other aspects of American society. You do know that, right? This is what
Yeah.
you don't understand,
Yeah, well,
right?
I mean,
Like,
I don't really know that yet.
well, like, take your time and go and look into it. That's why I said, I'm gonna post this. I'm gonna make this public, so it ain't like I'm hiding this. And I'm not gonna be like that boy who waited until the old girl got into fucking college and then dropped the screenshots like, you're racist, bitch. Try again. Like, no, I ain't gonna do that to you. I'm just gonna make this public so you can always come back to this and like look at this and see how much you've grown in progress. See where you left off at. If there's something I said that you didn't catch, you can rewatch it and re-listen to it and see what I was saying and heard. Because I know I probably do sound a little foreign to you, and I do talk a little fast according to some people. So you know, if you wanna, you know, you can slow that bitch down. You can speed the bitch up.
Sure.
Bitch, you can write down shit that I said because I know you ain't got a notepad. I know you ain't got a pen. I know you ain't working. I know you ain't working your Twitter fingers right now to Google some shit. So you know this would be here as a barometer of that. Like there's links all over my pages. There's all types of YouTubers that talks about books. There's talk about different perspectives. And believe me, like I'm not here to sugarcoat and tokenize certain black people. Like I'm not looking for the best black person to talk on the best black issues, right? Like which I find black people from a variety of perspectives and backgrounds and kind of cultivate all of that due to our algorithm being where it's at. So I can't really specify only a singular perspective of black people. I have to promote all black people due to the environment that we're in. But there's enough like ample information I done provided you. I done showed you this fucking Twitter link. I done showed you like the parts of CRT, Wikipedias. I done showed you the anti-black pipeline playlist. Right, like if you want to, you can get you and your group of friends together or wherever and come to this space, or y'all all read and look into this and read into critical whiteness study and white privilege and white fragility and settlers and you know the class of. Mm-hmm.
So I'm not gonna hold this to you, but if I go through the playlist that you linked, and I do remember it, and I do have it on my playlist list. Will I actually absorb critical race theory, or do I need to go deeper than that?
Look, I shouldn't have to answer that for you, right? You're not going to pay me if I answer that question. So,
Well, I mean,
like
I don't
said,
know because, like, in terms of becoming a
like I
leftist,
said,
it's not
but
something that I specifically went out and searched. It's something that I
hear me out
slowly
though.
slid into.
Right, but this is why I had to search. I had to look for this. You see how the privilege works? I had to do this searching and looking as a black person to pull myself out of these spaces and places, right? I grew up in this white-dominated society with black skin, right? I had to do this research. I had to do this searching. The fact that somebody can easily feed it to you and I have to put in labor to help you out with your fight and you can't compensate me in the slightest or help me out with my agenda, no, that's just not how this works. You have to do the research on your own. I gave you more than enough clues and hints. Like I gave you more than enough language. This is shit that it took me years to even come and fall upon and figure out. It took me years to even get access to the technology and the fucking resources to even get to this. Like mind you, like this is my second year of not being homelessness. All my life I've damn near been homeless and sleeping on somebody else's floor and or couch in or space where I not owned or while my parent or guardian owned said property, right? Like I'm just now starting to learn about this shit just recently, right? I known this because this is my lived experience, but reading this reinforms and reinforces a lot of shit that I innately knew growing up and helps provide me a more thorough analysis and language with describing my experiences when it comes to being black in America. Right, so as a white person, you should do the same research and looking and decolonizing and dismantling on your own, right? And if you come back to this video and rewatch it again, and you're still at door number one, you have a problem on your hands, and now you need help. Maybe you should pay somebody to help you get out of this space. Maybe you should compensate me if you really want me to help you out or something. Because I ain't going to do it for free. Obviously, you need some type of help and assistance. But bitch, I'm like a shoe. I'm not the best of all teachers, and I can get pretty chaotic. And that's just how shit works over here, right? Like I'm here to provide you with the option. What you choose is up to you, honestly. Like
I mean, there are definitely
you
major
know, you're a
gaps
grown
in my
human being.
knowledge.
Same here. Like I don't know everything. Like I don't know everything. You get what I'm saying? I'm still a learning, growing human being. I have a lot of fucking flaws, a lot of fucking baggage, a lot of shit that I still have to address in my own fucking self, right? But I still have to make time out to address y'all, right? So, like, keep that in mind. Like, you're not alone in this. You're not alone. You're not all by yourself. I shouldn't have to call you. Do that shit on your own. Do your own research. Look up critical race theory. Look up books that have been made by critical race theory. Look into critical race theory history. Like I said, it's called critical thinking and deductive reasoning. Right? Like I know the space that you're involved with don't promote this, but this is why I promote critical thinking, That means thinking for your own self and deductive reasoning. That means you do your own investigation, like hypothesis and testing those hypotheses and theories and foreshadowing, right? Like you know what I mean? This is how you engage with content. This is how you engage with media, right? Like when you're invested in something, what you do, you kind of guess what the plot is. You guess what's coming up. You get an idea of it based off of pre-existing tropes and how people can revert those tropes. This is where a lot of criticism of media and other content comes from, right? Because you have a good idea of how the foundation, you got a good idea of what the media environment, the content environment is, right? Like this is kind of the bread and butter of the video essay space amongst other spaces on YouTube, if you engage with those spaces, right? Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, what I'm doing is not complicated and or hard. You just got to use a little intersectionality and realize that some analysis and tools that are in other spaces you didn't realize can be an actual utilize, actual utility and a fully functional, efficient mechanic in this space. You get what I'm saying? Like, it's like playing video games. If you're not familiar with playing video games, the first time you start playing video games will be hard. But if you're familiar with playing video games, your literacy with controllers, your literacy of video game mechanics can easily be applicable everywhere else. Because if you see a red barrel, what the red barrel does, explodes, right?
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? If you shoot him in the head, 9 times out of 10, what will happen? It's a critical hit, right? You get what I'm saying? If you see a pathway highlighted in a video game, maybe that's where you should go, right? Like this visual language and tropes are well known and kind of engineered in people's brain. Like I said, it's a lifestyle, like being a vegan. You got to work towards it every day. It's like working out. You can't work out one day. You can't have me, run, and then I walk away and you like, man, fuck that shit. I ain't about to run. I'm about to go and take a drink. Bitch, then you see me a month later, and you know me, I didn't talk to you already. So like my stance with you is gonna be a little bit harder and then a little bit more antagonistic. Like the way you might perceive it from your point of view, it might seem a little bit more harder and antagonistic because I spent time talking to you, and from my perspective, I engaged with the empathetic fallacy, and you're still at door number 1. That means obviously you ain't learning. You might be a poor white proletariat, so you can't compensate me for teaching and educating you, and I'm not your fucking Morpheus. I'm not your magical Negro. Sorry, this is just not one of those stories. You're not the main character in this one. You get what I'm saying? So it's like, you gotta work this shit out. Like, I would help you, but like I said, I prefer to be compensated. Like, there's media. I put a lot of media out there. I put a lot of content. I spend a lot of my free time live streaming and watching black content creators, promoting and, like collectivizing black content creators. This server is a collection of a lot of information and knowledge, but you do have to go through the process to get in here. The problem is we let a lot of people in here who are in the same positions as you, and they still don't engage with us. This is what you don't understand. Like, our server is pretty large. Like our server is at least at 200 people, and like we get engagement for less than 20 motherfuckers. You get what I'm saying? So it's like we have information, knowledge. We have all this shit easily accessible, like links to different articles and studies and data. And it ain't no ultimate research guide. No, it's the actual fucking information itself, or links to where the actual information is that is done by these scholars, not just some person copying and pasting and making it easy talking points. And no, sorry, that's just, you got to use critical thinking and deductive reasoning. Come to your own conclusions, talk about it amongst your peers, and then we decide, and through that discussion we determine if it can't be replicated, throw it out. Sorry, this just, you got to work on your process again. And run that math back. If that math don't look the same when I run it back, throw that shit out. Bitch, and the same goes for me. If my math don't look right, throw that shit out. Sorry, I tried the same process you did. Didn't come to the same conclusions. Okay, that means there's something about my process I didn't make clear. There's something about my process I didn't document. And I have to rework on my methods too. Right? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay. Like,
At
it's
least,
just that simple. You would think that you will under... You know what I mean? This is kind of basic American education. Like, this is stuff that they kind of teach us in like high school, middle school type teas. You know what I mean? So like, it ain't like you can't do it. You just gotta put a little bit of elbow grease and stop being scared. Use Google. Don't be afraid to type these words in your algorithm. Google ain't gonna kill you because you're a white person typing in CRT, critical race theory. Like, I'm still here. You will still be here too. Okay? It ain't nothing going to scare you from watching John Henry Clark and listening to other people learn about political prisoners and what you can do.
Well,
and
if
how
the
can you raise
CIA
awareness.
hasn't got you, they probably won't get me.
Basically. You know what I mean? I'm still here. I ain't going yet. Now, if I am going, you might need to be scared, because god damn it, I can tell you right now, I ain't that big of a person. I ain't even that big of a deal unless they know I'm a big of a deal, and I don't even know it. Maybe I was sleeping on my own goddamn self, and that's a me problem, okay? But that's not a you problem, okay? So you get what I'm saying? But what is a you problem is you doing the research and you like engaging with it on a daily basis. Because whether I like it or not, whether I want to admit my oppression or not, whether I want to be colorblind about my experiences or not, like I'm still going to be dealt with anti-blackness for every day of my life, whether I like it or not. This is something that you don't have to deal with. This is how white privilege works in some instances. You get what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
just keep that shit in mind, right? Like engagement is on the daily. I do this shit every day or every other day. I stream usually on Twitch. I got a YouTube channel. I got a Reddit. I got a Spotify. I got a Twitter. I got an Instagram. I got a Vine. Yeah, like I got a Tumblr. I really stretch myself very fucking thin just so I can reach all you motherfuckers out there, right? And like to be honest, like white people is not even my majority audience, but obviously due to the work that we're doing, we have to intersect with y'all. So that means we have to engage with y'all. But to me, a lot of engagement with y'all never seems to be in good faith. And even when it is in good faith, there's still a lack of investment engagement because the bulk of your friends, your family, the bulk of your like what makes up your identity is still grounded in whiteness, and that's something that you might not be ready to even like let go. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because like some people who come from your spaces might see what I'm saying as alienating. I know, my bad. I don't mean to like overtalk you like that, but a lot of people from your background might see what I'm saying as very alienating. But it's alienating because that's how whiteness works. That's how white identity politics and white fragility plays out. What you saying though?
Yeah, well, I mean, considering I really only jumped onto voice chat to try to convince you that I'm not a bad faith actor and I'm not trying to give you shit, you've been more than gracious to me.
No, I appreciate that. You know, like I try to at least approach this with a little humility, but I really don't, because I don't like repeating myself. And then what really kills me is that people act like they engage with my content when they don't. So I know that they're trying to make me into a locale or trying to make this into a spectacle of some kind, because this is how anti-blackness plays out in this space. And like me, I engage with. Because, like, I don't know if you know, but, like, I didn't engage with somebody, and that shit turned into a messy fucking argument, and now we got a good portion of our space kind of divided, because now, like, now we're seeing how our analysis and our understanding of these spaces is now, it gotten extremely complicated. Not for us, but for people who are not aware of our analysis and how we approach things. To them, shit got complicated, because now they have to really reckon with the fact that there's people that they didn't assume, or there's people that who's moving who's like benefacting white identity politics that they didn't assume was, because to them just being of my skin color is just enough. You get what I'm saying? So there's a lot of fucking nuance out here. Like the world is very, like I said, my political compass is a little bit more dimensional than that. There's a front and a back, a top and a bottom, a left and a right, and on top of that, you got to take into account the time. Right? Time does wither a house, right? A house do dilapidate in certain parts when you ain't keeping it up, when you ain't keeping it fun, when you ain't keeping it going, right? Just because the top still look good up at the top doesn't mean everybody at the bottom living that same lifestyle in that household. You get what I'm saying? Because the apartment at the top looks good because they got money to keep the apartment looking fresh and funky. Doesn't mean the people who live below you is living the same conditions, right? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean,
just because your front entrance is on the fucking left doesn't mean everybody is entering in the left. Some people might have to enter in the back. Some people might have to enter the right. Some people might have to enter the front. You know what I mean? You get what I'm saying? Like that's why I use this house analogy, because like to me it provides a little bit more dimension. And like, don't get me wrong, this is something I could be working. Like you could talk to me a month from now, and bitch, I'd come up with a whole new analogy. You know what I mean? Like I got good analogies and bad analogies, but this to me is the best way to explain it. Like, to me, it's a little bit more dimensions to this shit. Because to me, there's a little bit more identity and environmental factors that I'm taking into account how it all plays with each other. Because people don't realize that white supremacy is an ecosystem, right? Like, you got to think about it. Racism is embedded into the trees they plant in our neighborhoods, right? Like, a lot of white supremacy is based into the environment and the way they keep the lawns, right? Like, into the way they develop suburbs, into how white flight was enabled and encouraged, the way neighborhood covenants was kept, redlining, right? How gerrymandering plays out in a legal manner, right? Like how, like fucking, you know, like Jim Crow and Like it's all out there. It's all out there. It's all easily accessible. Like all this information. You get what I'm saying? Like I could keep lining it and running it down front and back, but at the end of the day, it ain't gonna mean shit if you ain't gonna do the work tomorrow and the day after and the day after that, and probably take a break for a day or two because you are a fucking human being and get back on the wheel. It's just that simple.
I mean, you've given me a lot to you've given me a lot to think about. Specifically, I do want to take time to research CRT.
Well, do what you gotta do.
What,
I mean, you're a white person. You should look into critical whiteness studies too.
critical whiteness study? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there is
So,
one more question. It's back in my backlog that I did want to ask, somewhere around where you mentioned Oregon and Washington. Um, have you heard of the Netflix show Dear White People, and how cringe is it?
like to me, that's not a priority right now. Like to me, what's more cringe is the fact that like there's a whole leftist online with a huge platform talking about woke segregation, but is not addressing like the disparities with education and private institutions and how they literally eroded civil rights, or how like the history of the United States has been based in maintaining segregation due through white identity politics in the existence of Washington. The state Washington and Oregon literally have a history of fucking literal ethno states. That was an ethno. Those are ethno states. To this day, like that history is still relevant because a lot of that shit haven't been undone into very modern recent history, right? So that to me, that's more. So I'm not worried about fucking Dear White People and media that is meant to talk about race for a white perspective. You get what I'm saying? A lot of us as black people feel like a lot of media for black people is not always representative of us. This is why you
Okay.
see a lot of black Twitter whining and waxing and moaning about fucking slave films because we're tired of it. There's no
Yeah,
nuance
I
to
only
it.
ask about
There's
that
no fucking
because I
Haitian
did.
Revolution, colonizer getting hung and sliced up movies. Nah, because white people get scared and get angry. You know what I mean? It's all movies dealing with white people whipping and chaining us, and we crying and wailing and moaning. Like y'all, to us, that's trauma porn. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, I only wanted to ask because I mean I've watched it. It deals with things like interracial relationships. The word hotep is used once, I think, in the entire first season of it. I never watched anything after that. And Netflix isn't exactly big media Hollywood. At least it wasn't
It
back when
is
that was
big
produced.
media. No, like when Dear White People came out, Dear White People was a movie. It was a big movie that was like kind of somewhat successful as far as like the way it was received by the public. So like Dear White People is something that is looked at mainstream media, in my opinion, from my perspective. Definitely dealing with black oriented media. Even the plot about the interracial was a little weird. A lot of people didn't really like the TV show, from what I heard from people who talks about Dear White People, the TV show, not the movie, right? So like to me, like when like even the usage of the word hotep, we didn't discuss that already. Right, like I didn't really go too deep into interracial, but to me that shouldn't be a priority. You should be more so concerned about critical whiteness studies and understanding the utility of the white proletariat and how useless they are when it comes to actually being black, like accomplices to black people and black oppression, and helping us transform this government and gain reparations. Like that's what you should be worried about. That should be in your top 1, top 5, and top 20. Okay, like that should be number one. In the top 5 and top 20 should be things that are synonymous, adjacent to, and next to those topics. Not Dear White People and interracial. If you're worried about interracial, you're in the wrong field. You're in the wrong. Stay in your lane. You in the wrong lane. You probably way out of your level. That's the equivalent of going to Dungeon 50 and you still in the fucking dungeon. You even enter Dungeon 1. It's like fucking treat it like SAO. Like bitch, your life is on the line, and bitch, at the end of the day, you shouldn't be running into dungeons that you shouldn't be in. Okay. It's just that simple. I
I haven't
can't.
watched Sword Art yet.
Get into it. Get
I don't
into
think I
it.
ever
Hey,
will.
you get the idea. You get the idea of dungeons and
Maybe.
levels and ain't no maybe. You play games. You
Yeah,
play dungeon. You play Dungeons and Dragons. Alright, then
I'm
stop playing. Like if
too
you're a millennial
autistic to
and
play
or
that.
Zoomer, you should be vaguely aware of what a JRPG is. Like it ain't no way in hell all these titties, ass, and motherfucking abs and fucking man tits is out here on these fucking Instagram and Twitter screens, and you're not aware of a RP fucking GEC guy or wherever the fuck they want to call it nowadays, so you could digest nerd culture. Like you know what I'm saying? Stop playing with me. Like stop playing with me. I'm tired of the shit too. Shit. You know what I mean?
Listen,
Like niggas happy that we finally getting Yusuke, and even then I'm like, this ain't enough. Like, bitch, y'all took too big of a break between Cannon Busters and Yusuke. For me, like that's the way I look at it. Cause give me enough money and a big enough platform with some equipment and some hardy workers, bitch. We have fucking music videos, animes, and anthologies coming out every other week and month. Cause bitch, that's just how we do it, bitch. Like we're very creative people, and we make shit efficient. But you know how America works. It always works to destroy black wealth every time we find a way to get around this capitalist system. Even if we do it in a communistic, socialistic fashion, they still find a way
I mean,
to get rid of our glitches.
well, I mean, you can shit talk Netflix, but they're the only studio that actually funded Cannon Busters, as far as I'm aware.
I know that, but it still ain't. They ain't enough to get. They ain't enough to buy my ticket. Bitch, like come back to me when they come back to me when they got a motherfucking Afro surrealist fucking ballroom anime Vogue series. Okay, come back when there's all black cast, all black writers, bitch, all black characters, Afro surrealist, fucking ballroom, fucking anime. Come back then. Come back then. If you can do that, if you can fucking do that, bitch, you alright. I might sit back and be like, you know what? I might can't complain because now you pandering to my target demographic base, right? Other than that, fuck out of here all that other shit, okay? Like motherfuckers in anime is scared to make motherfucking actual black people black. Like, I'm tired of the fucking fros and the dreadlocks and the one style, the fucking cornrows. Like, our people that mastered 4C hair for fucking eons. You never been to a barbershop before? Like, at least Disney, Pixar tried it with Soul, even though they got dragged through the dirt, which they deserve. Like, they got motherfucking, like transracial shit going on. Motherfuckers like, well, this spirit wasn't white. We don't know, bitch. It was voiced by It was voiced by Tina Fey. It's called coding. Like we're not going to sit there and talk about coding when it comes to LollyCon and shit like that. But when it comes to fucking in raceless spirits, oh, the code is no longer there. Fuck out of here. Fuck out of here with that bullshit. Okay, like, bitch, she's obviously a white woman. That's how she's coded. That's who she is. And bitch, she was in a black man's body. That's some get out shit. Stay woke. You know what I mean? But other than that, I mean, like, I can talk to you all day about this shit. You know what I mean? I can ham fist you on this shit all day. Like, the reality is, I stream. If you want to subscribe to my platforms and actually engage, because there's a lot of people who just subscribe to me because it makes them feel good. Like, it's weird because it's like every day I wake up, I get more subscribers. And I'll be like, when I live stream like every other day and whatnot, and nobody be there. But the strange part is when I'm done live streaming, everybody watches my live streams. And I'll be like, how did I get 25 viewers?
Is it a bad hour? What is that?
I streamed down there. There's been times I done streamed at least 6 to 12 hours a whole day. All I did was anti-blackness. Motherfuckers running around yelling N-word. I don't like how Twitch enables anti-blackness, but motherfuckers say like things.
You can do that on Twitch? They like what?
Yeah, Twitch allows anti-blackness. You didn't know? This is what I've been talking about the whole time. This is the shit I've been talking about. I was talking about this shit the whole time. Twitch allows this shit. Like, there's literally a Destiny. Like, Destiny literally have a part of his conversation with his friends where they literally was talking about how, like, Twitch find a way to treat, like, white people as if they're minorities. So they prevent people from criticizing whiteness in any capacity.
I was not aware you could run around on Twitch saying the N-word like
it ain't even comment, it ain't only Twitch. It ain't only Twitch. There's a various amount of other platforms that do the same thing too. But if you get a white person being racist, you don't. Of course you don't know. This is why the fuck I'm telling you. You should be listening, not talking. Like, children should be seen and not heard. It's just one of those moments. Like the
usually when there's like. Usually when there's like some massive anti-Semitic bigot, they always pop in and they're like, "Hey, you should check out this video about Jews. Look at this video."
But keep in mind, like, a lot of people don't even understand the nuances of intersectionality when it comes to like being like, you know, somebody of, I wouldn't even say Semitic, but someone of Jewish descent. There's white Jews and black Jews too, right? So even in there's still a dichotomy like where black Jews aren't even addressed, right? It's almost the same dichotomy when people are talking about Asians too, right? Like when people talk about Asianic people, like people misunderstand the fact that there's darker skinned Asians and there's Asians like South Asians, not, you know, the West and South Asians who don't really get that much shine when it comes to mainstream media and representation in relation to other Asianic groups of people. Like they kind of
Yeah.
like outshine them in many instances to the detriment of them. This is why people are very critical of the model minority myth and are highlighting how like a lot of people in those communities does that. And it's almost the same thing too when it comes to people who are white passing or who engage in like Eurocentric white identity politics within our own community. There's a lot of people who like, or as we colloquially will call it, coons, sambos, and all that other weird shit, right? Like like people who engage in white identity politics and Eurocentricity, right? Like we call attention to that too, right? So
Is that
there's
the same
always
thing that
Mhm.
goes on in India? Like their media specifically seems to feature like way lighter skinned characters
Well,
compared
yeah,
to the rest of the
This.
cast.
Oh, I even bring up anti-blackness in AGA in their countries. Anti-blackness is global. That's just global, okay? Like the fact that Korea could get away with literally co-opting Black American culture and not give us shit, like that should be telling everybody. That should immediately be
Korea?
telling. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, like South Korea, K-pop, like their pop culture is literally like Black American fucking urban culture. That urban contemporary we complain about every year, but when it goes to Japan, it's pop, and when it goes to Korea, it's pop. That shit, yeah, that shit. You get what I'm saying? Shit, most people don't even talk about like the first person to ever put motherfucking English words with Japanese fucking art is a literal black man. Is a literal black man. You know what I mean? People don't
Really?
talk about that though. Yeah, really. Like we take that. That's how many risks we take. We take risks.
I mean, like,
We make it. We make it. We make nothing from something, and we don't be knowing. And we be like everybody else. We just experiment, right? We take risks. This is what makes us like. This is what makes us. I ain't going to say exceptional, but due to that word, like as far as Black Americans, I would say we are exceptional. Like, there's no way else. This is what gives people like courage to come here because people don't even talk about how the Statue of Liberty was dedicated to our people. Like, but it was through revisionist history. It was recast as a symbol of immigrants, when in reality, like it was a symbol for us in our enslavement. This is why if you look under the Statue of Liberty leg, she literally have a shackle on her leg because the Frenchmen wanted to dedicate it to us, but America wasn't having it because of obvious fucking reasons. So what they did was they remade the statue and then put the chain under her fucking leg, which it still can be seen to this day. Shit you not. There's a lot of shit about this country we don't know. A lot of shit in this country people don't talk about. People complain about woke segregation, but don't recognize we got our own fucking flag. We got our own fucking national anthem. Bitch, we're separated literally into our own fucking communities through white flight, not black flight, white flight. We literally migrated in mass to the north, and white flight occurred. You get what I'm saying? You get what I'm and like niggas had an ethno state all the way up until like the 70s, 1970s or some shit like that. Literal two whole United states, literally enforcing like literal two northwest United states dedicated to being a literal ethno state. The haven for white people where no black people live. Black people are less than 1% of the population to this day. To this day, they probably know more than 2% of the state's populations. You get what I'm saying? But you want to talk about woke segregation, why black people don't want to stick their dicks and pussies and, other body parts into these pasty white motherfuckers who would turn around and call them the N-word while sporting medium brown 3C fucking kids? This is shit that we got actually documented as black people. We see this shit online all the time. Motherfuckers calling motherfuckers in the store, calling essential workers N-words with fucking brown-skinned 3C kids. I don't want nobody sporting my kids around like that. Like, bitch, you crazy. Like, not my nieces and nephews and cousins. Bitch, you crazy. Like, you know how much trauma
that's
and
what
bullshit they gotta unpack for them kids? But nobody
the
talks about that.
fetishization, right?
And
Of just
objectification
having a
of the
black
black
boyfriend.
body. No, it's fetishization and objectification. You gotta remember, like, we're stereotyped for having big dicks, fat ass, big titties, wide hips. Not to say that the shit don't exist. It do exist. It kind of exists for everybody else. Some people can argue that, like, it's a little bit more prominent for us for various reasons, right? But at the end of the day, it turns into this thing where people are body shamed. You're shamed for having a body. You're shamed for having a body, right? And then you see white people celebrated for having them same features. This is literally, if you know anything about the Kardashians and the black community, this is literally the fucking talking point. Kardashians is a fucking case study when it comes to the black body and fetishization and objectification and appropriation. All in one, which is very fucking funny. Her career is literally a case study of how fucking like how objectification, fetishization, and appropriation works when it comes to the black body. No, I shit you not. so much content has been based into dissecting and calling out and working on that and talking about how like they can like achieve these looks, they can achieve these features, but when it's done on actual natural black people, oh, it's wrong, it's bad, you shouldn't look like that, and there's no way you can monetize and profit from that. You all types
Wait,
of
am
sluts
I
and
thinking
whores.
of? Did she replicate like art that was created of a black person originally?
Yes, she did. She literally did. She retook a picture of a prominent black star. I think it was Diana Ross. She was supposed to be paying homage to Diana Ross, and they literally blackfaced her. That happened. You get what I'm saying? Like, this is the shit we go through on a daily basis, and that's on top of the fucking racial oppression. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is the shit we gotta go through on a daily basis. Like, who wants to date people like that? Who wants to date? Who wants to be on Grindr while somebody only messages you talking about you got a BBC? What, bruh? You didn't even ask for my name. You didn't even ask if a bitch was on prep, but you worry about a BBC. What you talking about, King Prince Philip? Like what was the BBC all about, bitch? Like, bitch, it better be motherfucking what's his name? Doctor Who. You ain't talking about Doctor Who. You talking about BBC? Get that shit the fuck out of my face. Like, you know what I mean?
We'll talk about
like,
Doctor Who.
I'm just saying, like, we know that when you're on Grindr, that's not what people want. That's not what people talking about. Like, fetishization and sexual, or I call it sexual racism, right? The term is sexual racism, right? Sexual racism usually was to explain the phenomenon where white people was trying to come up with justifications of not dating and dealing with black people. But me, you know, through my analysis, I've like evolved the term to also be applicable to people who use preferences as a means to justify, you know, not dating people outside of their said race, right? Then on top of using their preferences and biasness as a means of not dating people outside of their race, sexual fetishization and objectification of certain racial groups, right? When people think all Asian women are submissive, all Asian men got small dicks and stuff like that, or all, you know what I mean? Like, stuff like, or you know, think like all black men got or super hyper masculine, toxic. Like, there's literally been white people who entered my server because I got my own server on top of Scorpio server, right? There's been little white people came to my server and said I want a black man because I want a toxic masculine black man who literally meets all the thug stereotypes. Whole white person. I kicked them. I fucking Ogun fucking Thunder banned that motherfucker from the server so fucking fast. This motherfucking head spin, and I ain't even document it because, like, bitch, I banned him so fast that I forgot to click the button not to delete all the messages. Because, bitch, like, I would have took a picture and saved that shit. Like, oh, bitch, like, let me use this so I can provide this as evidence with my analysis. And, like, this motherfucker was that trusted. He told me, like, usually I don't tell people this is my preference. And I'm like, yeah, that's the problem. You don't tell people about this. You don't unpack your biasness. Like, you don't unpack your stereotypes. Like, that's harmful. You're literally reinforcing toxic masculine behaviors in our communities. You looking for a directly toxic masculine man who plays into hood tropes and thug stereotypes. These are things that we get police for. Wearing hoodies, right? Wearing baggy jeans, right? This is what we get police for. Like, this is what we get shot and murdered by the cops for, and this is what you're looking for. So it's weird. On one end of the white spectrum, you got people trying to fuck us for it. The other end, we're just getting shot and killed for it. Damn do you do, damn do you don't. You know what I'm saying? And that's not even talking about the porn sex worker industry, right? Like, I see a lot of people in these Eurocentric spaces spamming black.com. There's been an error in a lot of these, you know, bread tube, left tube, debate bros, whatever the fuck you want to call them. You know, there's been a couple errors where people or their fan base is spamming black.com and spamming black.com links. Like, that whole platform is literally dedicated to the fetishization of, like, literal black bodies. And it plays into the tropes of, like, you know, not Gone on the Wind. That's another racist movie, but it plays into the tropes of, you know, of A Birth of a Nation. That all black men want is a white woman, right? Even that meme with the white woman and all the big beastly black men behind her, right? All of that shit invokes that symbology. All of that shit plays into the visual tropes of earlier white racist media, because this is media mainly made to be consumed by white audiences. You get what I'm saying? Like, the whole platform is dedicated.
I was gonna say, when the heck have leftists done that? Goodness.
Leftists don't do that analysis. This is what I'm saying. That's why, like, you see all the shit I've been bringing up lately. A lot of this shit that haven't even been touched on. But when you come to black people, we with it, we on it, we know it. But guess what? We don't get no attention, no engagement. You hear what I'm saying? But, like, nobody talks about this shit. Shit, like a
Well, I
person like
guess
me be like, we could do a poetry night. We could do poetry readings. Have all y'all motherfuckers come up there and express all your feelings and shit. Bitch, we could have a straight up feelings night. Feelings and vibes. Come on down. Say how you feel.
I
Bitch,
mean,
hop in the voice chat. Hop in the voice chat. Read a poem and say something. If you ain't being anti-black, bitch, you won't get deplatformed. And bitch, be lucky I'm letting all the non-black people say something. Cause bitch, usually I wouldn't. So you get what I'm saying? Like
I think
something.
I think the problem is that the debate bros, despite saying stuff like it's okay to have feelings when you're masculine, still give off a very stereotypical kind of vibe, you know.
I ain't even
They
gonna
say
get into
stuff like it's
I ain't even gonna get into the womanist feminist aspect of like how white people should adjust into a more more like into a more not sensitive. I don't know the correct word, but into a more feeling individual. Like I'm not even trying to get into like that aspect of shit, but like like gender expression with like masculine people or is a big deal and a big issue. Like there's a lot of fucking issues and problems that are under addressed, underutilized, under talked about in these spaces. You know what I mean? And a lot of people don't have these conversations, but our people, we talk about it. We're aware of
sure.
it or we lived it. You know what I mean? And like our lived experiences put us kind of like tears ahead. That's why I hate that shit when people are like, well, you act like we all know it. Bitch, we all don't know it either. A lot of us are still impacting anti-blackness, but due to our lived experiences, like you can try to ledger that as a head start, but I mean getting murdered and over policed, if you think that's a head start, then oof, you really need to get your life in check. You know what I mean? Like, bitch, if you think me
Yeah.
being oppressed is a fucking head start with race analysis, oof, oof. Like, I don't even get a medal for this shit. Shit, no different than black women that survived childbirth should get a medal. Like, but you survived. You made it. You know what I mean? Shit, any black
It's,
person above
yeah.
25 probably need a fucking medal, a certificate, and an undeployable amount of cash. Just dropped on them. You know what I mean? Like, just here, you made it to 25. You survived. We're gonna compensate you for making it this far. On top of the other compensations that's coming in too. But that's not important
Yeah,
right now, right?
I know
So
I've seen something once about black mortality rates specifically, but I think once I heard it the first time, I was never able to find the statistic again.
yeah, it's everywhere. It's about medical racism and how like people think black women don't feel pain, and on top of like thinking black people don't feel pain in general, and how that plays into like black women in childbirth and basically
Oh
like the black
yeah,
woman
that
mortality
too.
rates are extremely high in comparison to other race. So when you look at black women, a lot of them tend to die after giving birth to children because they're not looked
Holy
after
shit.
after their doctors. Like yeah, this is shit that damn near everybody. This is popular facts now. Back in the day, like everybody didn't know this, but now it's so widely known. Like you would assume that I would assume that you would at least you heard about it, so that means at least these conversations are brushing your spaces. But you see how you don't know you don't know this information, right? But this is also a narrative on medical racism. So how are we going to get fucking Medicare for all when people still think I don't feel fucking pain? Right? When black women are still dying after giving childbirth, right? When there's not a lot of black doctors going into the motherfucking medical field, which helps lower these rates and address these issues, right? But you want Medicare for all. Why? So black people still can dodge the fucking butcher ass doctors. Like there's no process to even like like to punish doctors for having black patients die on them. Like, bitch, if one of they like if somebody get diabetes or some shit like that, or like go through some type of illness and the doctor don't really invest and try to help that black person out, bitch, they should lose money. Bitch, something should happen to their medical license. The same way we talk about these cops, the same shit should happen for these doctors too. I mean, to
Yeah,
me, it's
well,
only fair. It's only fair, as Soren said, it's only fair. You
there's
gotta do
something
something.
screwy in the medical system to begin with, right? Like even if we
Yeah, the medical
implemented
system was,
Medicare for all,
to be
I mean
honest, that's
there
not
would
my
still be
problem.
corruption among the
To
doctors.
to me, that's not my problem though. My problem is to dismantle the system, right? To dismantle and replace it with a whole nother system. So to me, like bitch, like I said, like the same way that we're talking about having these cops impugn for killing black people, the same should be the same for doctors too. Doctors, nurses, and other medical practitioners. If a black, like, bitch, I want it to be like fucking Clue. If a black person dies, if a black body ends up on your table, bitch, you gotta, who did it? What happened, bitch? I wanted to be like a fucking dead white body. I want y'all to feel the same way black people felt in the 1800s when they stumbled upon a dead white body. Bitch, you gonna be like Martin Luther. You gonna be like Eddie Murphy and motherfucking Martin Lawrence in Life. But you stumble upon a dead black body. Everybody, oh my god, bitch, we're going to jail. Bitch, like, how are we gonna? I don't even know if I should call the cops, bitch. Like, now you know how we feel, bitch. That's how, like, I know some people might say it's extreme, but like, bitch, that's how the system should treat us. Like, we're that protected as a people. Bitch, like the same way motherfuckers write laws to protect fucking birds and fucking wolves and shit. I mean, shit, I ain't no fucking animal, but bitch, you know what I mean? Like, I need to be on some type of protected person list too. Bitch, if I sneeze the wrong way, bitch, I want the system to bend hand over. Bitch, my auntie feel like she need to fart the wrong. If she farted the wrong way for the day, bitch, I want her to be able to feel okay. Bitch, I want my little cousins and nieces and nephews and other family members to feel okay and fucking taken care of by the system, right? Because like we're dealing with oppression amongst other issues, and we need the help. We need the resources, right? So like to me, some universal plan ain't gonna work because they did it with the GI Bill. They did it with the shit that happened with white flight and fucking covens and like they did universal plans, and we wasn't a part of none of that. So. Like, to me, I hate that. That's why I hate class reductionism, because it's like you literally act like this history don't exist. Like, universal plans tend to not go to black Americans. When they pass laws for everyone, we tend to get excluded out. Definitely being a group of people who ain't got wealth. So it's weird that they're passing laws for marijuana to be legalized, but black business owners in the marijuana industry still getting shut out. Holy shit. So you mean to tell me you police people for years, and the moment you make it illegal, you still can't participate in said industry that privatized off of you? They still didn't release people who got fucking locked up on erroneous charges. There's still no compensation for all the people who lost their family members, who lost time in their lives for small amounts of weed or wheat that shouldn't even be fucking criminalized at the time. People who still in jail for crimes that they didn't even commit. Like, if you go, like, in our server, we got an article that literally talks about some dude who was in prison until he was damn near, like, in his, from 70s to 80s. And he didn't even do the crime. He barely got compensated.
Just throw him out and say, oops?
That's exactly what the fuck happened. No different than the fucking political prisoners who's still in there for nothing. Amazing. I don't give a fuck what they did. To me, they in there for nothing, and that's just the way I see it. You can see it the way you want to see it, but to me, that's all white identity politics and Eurocentrism. I don't give a fuck. That's just how I feel. Which I'm not here to play nuance with fucking terrorists. I don't like everybody like the Boondocks. I don't sip tea with the enemy. That's just that simple. You know what I mean? So like that's just the way I'm taking it when it comes to a lot of these issues. It's like no, it's just like, you know what I mean? Like, I talk about games, video games, manga. You know, we do watch TV shows and shit like that. Like, we do like pop media analysis because we are regular people, right? Like, we're not always these serious political people. This is just the shit that y'all see because, like I said, like, it's fucking WWE fucking Raw, Monday Night Raw with y'all motherfuckers. So this shit always turned into a weird fucking wrestling match when they were like, and motherfuckers is like, you know what I mean? Like, they don't know if the story arc want to be a heel, if he want to be the hero. Bitch, motherfuckers just don't know. And I'm like, bitch, I don't give a fuck about this wrestling. At the end of the day, my people dying. Bitch, fuck this platform. You know what I mean? Like, stop putting the mic on my face. Yeah. Bitch, at this point in time, this reality, this wrestling is now reality TV, bitch, because like, I don't know if you see Paris is Burning, but this is a documentary, bitch. I'm documenting my life. Like, what are you talking about? Like, bitch, like, if you want to divulge, that'd be different, but y'all ain't got that kind of stamina. I don't think y'all really built for that. I watch the
same amount of Paris is Burning as I have WWE in my life, so maybe not.
Shit, even Paris is Burning, niggas didn't even get compensated with that, but that's not even talking about. There's not a lot of media that really documents that, and people who document it, to me, they could at least do it a bit better, but, you know, I'm different. You know, I love video. I love, like, technology, and, you know, I'm into social media, and, you know, I'm good with the cameras and framing, which is nothing. You know what I mean? It's nothing for me to provide a little structure, organization. Shit, like, I got kicked out of Destiny server. I literally talked about it when, like, I got kicked out of Destiny server because, like, what happened was, you know, I'm a black nationalist in this space, and actually I attract a lot of attention, right? So, you know, I'm attracting a lot of attention. I told everybody, come on, let's get in voice chat, let's talk. So I sat in voice chat, I talked to a couple people, but, you know, because I'm in here, I attract a lot of attention. So, like, I literally whipped them all into the, like, line and, you know, played next question. Next question was a simple game. It was like, look, y'all, look, if you got a question, I will answer it. Otherwise, next question. And I literally will run them down. And, like, they ask me questions, I answer their question, and I'll kick them off to the side. But somebody got mad at me and was like, oh no, why, how dare you? Wait a minute, what happened? No, you're not disconnecting on my end, are you? Wait a minute, what the fuck is going on? What the fuck? Is it me or is it you? Hello?
Hello.
Yeah, like there's a secret. Discord apps be acting funny. Like Discord be acting up sometimes. Discord be like, yeah,
Okay.
I'm a good app. I'm a good, reasonable app. Now I don't know where the app be like, oh, I don't work no more. You know what I mean? So like, it is what it is, right? Like it's all about your engagement, how much like you're involved with the space. Like we're
Yeah.
regular fucking human beings. We talk about anime, manga, TV shows. We talk about all that shit too, amongst like freedom, liberation, and all that good whatnot. But that's the part that people don't really see of us, and the part that people don't really celebrate. So we try to make ends meet and dues, whatnot. Like I've been
So,
streaming a lot lately and been trying to keep up with content, but lately I've been taking a break. But besides like
okay.
me uploading this shit for documentation, like this probably been the first time I ever like actually uploaded anything to YouTube since like like April the 6th. So that goes to show that like I literally gave this shit about 10 days when it comes to uploading stuff. But I've been live streaming on Twitch. Like on Twitch, what I do is I listen to lo-fi music, I play video games, I talk to whoever comes to in chat, because to me I use that as a barrier of doing outreach. So like to me that's my means of reaching out to other people in the community, talking to others, because I got tired of going to other community servers and talking to people in there, because that shit turns into a complete fucking fiasco. Like it's been too many
Well,
times.
I mean, if
uh,
posting some memes got you to make some new content, then I guess that's all for the better.
I mean, to me, I mean, yeah, no. I mean, I don't feel comfortable calling this shit content. You know what I mean? That's why I call it documentation. Like, it is content, like, the way through, like, social media jargon, it's still content, technically speaking. But to me, I don't like seeing it that way, because, like, there's no, like, well, to me, the connotation of content means, like, I'm profiting off of this, and there is no profit. And even if people come to this shit 2, 3, 5 years later and be like, oh, I like everything that's being said here, to me it's not going to mean nothing, because by then like 5, 2, 4, 5 years from now, shit's only probably going to get worse if we don't get a transformational government and reparations. You know what I mean? Like we're just going to be in the worst conditions, and I'm probably going to be a little bit more spicy than I am today. I'm going to be a little bit more like more like straightforward about how I feel about things than I am now. You know what I mean? Like to me, like
Yeah.
good faith discussions no longer going to come, because people don't understand, like, Black Americans are in a very compromised position. Oh, the last time I did a Twitch stream was on the 13th. So usually I do like Twitch streams 9, 10, 11, 12. Every 2, 3 days I get on Twitch. Like back in the day I used to do it every day, but after a while I just stopped doing that shit, because like putting in 12 hours, 6 hour streams, 8 hour streams a day, just sitting on stream and dealing with anti-blackness and with nobody on stream. After a while I'm like, what's the point? You know what I mean? What's
Yeah.
the fucking point? I'm like,
Well, maybe, yeah,
it's
maybe you
it's a
can
needless
have a,
it's a needless service. And even when I tried advertising my server in many spaces, but because I streamed, like back then when I first started, I was streaming every day. Everybody would get mad at me, and some servers be like, you keep on posting content and you keep posting your videos in here. It's like, well, I do videos every fucking day. Like to me, this is my means of outreach into the community using my platform, so they could come into Scorpio world or come into my space, so they can better engage with us and get access to information that other leftist discords not have. Because we've been in a good number of leftist Discord servers, and in many cases, like rather it's infrared community, rather it's some of these other leftist communities, like a bitch came in here like, y'all need a library, bitch, y'all need a space for books, bitch, y'all need a space for articles, y'all need a space for data, anything that's dealing with free information, the boister y'all talking points, the boister, to have a better understanding of people who disagree with y'all and arguments that goes against y'all talking points. Y'all should have this information easily accessible, so people can read through this information and come to their own decisions. And if you supposed to be the ultimate best person in this perspective, like, bitch, people should be able to weigh their own options and come to their own decisions. You get what I'm saying? But when it comes to anti-blackness, oh no, like, when it comes to anti-blackness, I ain't got time for nobody to be like, well, should I play into white identity politics or black identity? Nah, hell no, bitch. Like, black, well, bet on black, bitch, we're right, bitch, you're wrong. I don't give a fuck. There's no nuance. I'm not here to debate my livelihood, because I keep telling people that, like, the privilege of being able to debate my livelihood is a privilege in its own self. The fact that, like, you as a white person could talk to another person and debate my livelihood, and rather I should exist as a black person, that's fucking privilege in its own self. Because to me, when black people are debating our livelihoods, we're in court, we're dealing with these teachers, we're dealing with these bureaucrats, we're dealing with the police. That's when we're debating our livelihood, and usually the connotations is never in our favor. You know what I mean? So, like, to me, to get on a platform like this online to debate my livelihood, or debate rather I should live, exist, or deserve freedom, justice, equality, and any other fucking isms, words out there, bitch, that to me that's just unsettling. Like, to me, like, it's like what Big Worm said, bitch. Like, you playing with my money is like playing with my emotions. Like, bitch, that's what we not about to do. You know what I mean? So
I don't think I've ever come across a case where there are two people that aren't white debating what I'm talking about. I don't think I've ever gotten to that point. I don't think I've
but
even seen anybody do that.
my thing is, I'm gonna need you to get to that point. Like to me, like Vosh and Destiny, they built their whole platforms, or even Xanderhoff, they built their platforms debating Nazis about rather if black people are human beings and dumb shit like that, or the bell curve and shit like that. Like, all that shit is like shit that have been actually used to inflict like pain and oppression upon us, to like dismiss and dismantle our people. Like, this is what people don't understand. These are these are not abstract concepts. These are not abstract. These are real life things that literally reflects, like, our literal world analysis is as a reaction or a counter narrative to a lot of this shit that y'all discuss in abstracts. So to y'all, a lot of shit that people think is abstract, like race and shit like that, to us is not abstract. Like, no, we live this. This is our lived experience. This is what we're going through. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, like, to me, even that is like a level of detachment from like the
It
like what
seems
you're
like
actually arguing.
it seems like a lot of the videos that get popular are like drama first and informative second.
Keep in mind, we watch the ones that ain't important either. We even sit there and watch they dumb, dry ass debates and shit like that when they talk about incels and talk about guts and, you know, what is the proper way to show rape on screen. Like, what the fuck, man? Like, this is how much watching of content we have done for both. Like, when I say we watch their content, we engage with it. We have to if we're going to provide this criticism, right? Otherwise, what's the fucking point? What's the fucking point of criticizing them? Right? If we're just going to watch 2 seconds. You know what I mean? This is why like we have a lot of heat and animosity for a lot of people in these spaces, because y'all got criticisms and, you know, y'all try to tell us how to think and feel about shit. But it's like, do you know how much hours we put in on this? Like, we got gospel soul singer hours when it comes to the shit. Like, and a lot of y'all can't even watch 3 hours. Like, bitch, our content, me and Scorpio's content together probably is less than a day worth of hours of watched content. Totally. But meanwhile, we have to watch more than, you know how much fucking hours worth of content like a lot of these leftists have out there, videos that span back to damn near 2015 and shit, 17 and shit, when some of them got into this space, right? So 2017 to 2018, a lot of them been in the game for at least a couple of years now, more than a couple of years now. More than at least.
Well, maybe I'm just speaking for myself, but in terms of streams, I found Vosh to be one of the few engaging leftist streamers. There's not really anybody that comes close to him in terms of anybody on BreadTube or even near it.
I mean, to be honest, all of their content is plays into the same tropes, though. That's what I'm trying to get you to understand. There is no good guy. Like, plot twist, they all villains.
Oh yeah, well, like, for sure. They're similar in like in effects, but in rhetoric, I just really don't like listening to streamers that much.
I mean, but rather it's a streamer, or rather it's somebody who got like ContraPoints where she present her content. She still does the same shit that they're doing. It's just that people are more they treat them more better because they put more sugar on it, right? To me, it's still shit. It don't matter how much sugar you put on the shit. It's still a shit pie. It's still a shit pie. Like, you ever seen, I don't think you've seen Help, but it's still a shit pie. I know it's a shit pie. You're not going to convince me to eat it. It's just that simple. It's literally what it is. Now, I know it's a shit pie. Bitch, I'm not stupid. Bitch, I don't give a fuck how much sugar you put on it. Some people was lazy. They just put whipped cream on and like, yeah, ha ha ha, this is a shit pie. You know what I mean? Like, and ironically, you ate the shit pie. You know what I mean? And then other people like, you want to eat my home cooking? I put a lot of effort into this. It's sparkly and glowing, and it got a little Jack Daniels on the inside too. Like, no, bitch, it's a shit pie. You're not gonna get me to eat it, ho. Like, you know what I mean? It's just that simple. Like, no, this is not how that works. Bitch, like, oh my God, he's my God too. Like, like, you know, did you not see me coming? Did you not yield? Bitch, do you got some money? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what else to tell you. Like, bitch, plot twist, they're all villains. Like, when we talk about the Eurocentric left, it's just not Vosh. It's just that Vosh is the barometer because he reheated a conversation that have been a part of discussion since 2019. Cat Black and them discussed the utility of race within the left. Professor Flowers, Angie Speaks, they all made content. T1J, they all made content talking about this back in 2019. The shit came up and died down because I was watching BreadTube around the time. So I vaguely remember, and people kind of tried to attack Cat Black behind that and whatnot, right? So when Cat Black dropped her, like, you know, why BreadTube is so light and shit like that, you know, it was a lot of backlash and whatnot. The shit died down. But what happened was, like, that's how much content we've been watching. Like, there's a fucking timeline. Like, the Anti-Black Pipeline playlist kind of shows you this timeline of how we get from
sure I was going to bring that up, but I was going to say that everybody's forgotten about it since then.
Exactly. This is to show you, like, it's like Angie Speaks said, it's a cyclical cycle, right? It's a cyclical cycle where people keep asking the question, where the black left tubers, where the black bread tubers? Like, it's a cycle because this space needs to be dismantled. It never was meant to be for us. This space literally was built in reaction to the far right white identity politics, and all the people on the far right did was move to the center right, and people called it left identity politics. But it's still white identity politics. It still plays into white identity politics. It's still about white identity. This is why that's the priority and focus. This is why people will talk about, well, maybe we should not focus on converting Nazis, and you get your favorite platformers going like, well, you know, you telling everyone it's not okay to be converted. Like, number one, if you're converting from that space, bitch, and somebody tell you that shouldn't be a priority, you should understand and know why, right? Because you're coming into a space where a lot of people have been accosted and harmed by your heritage, by your family, by your background. It might take you years to even drop your whiteness. You drop your white friends, drop your white families, work to get money in our pockets and communities. Bitch, you can't afford us 15%. Definitely if you're a poor white proletariat who've been working with white identity, like harmful rhetoric and white identity politics for the most part. But us as black people, we have to shut up and bite the bullet and sit with Nazis because we need white people for our revolution. Ha, bitch, you funny as hell. Bitch, that ain't how this works. Like, to me, that is like the most Eurocentric white take on like black liberation and freedom ever. And that's why, like, we're documenting this shit, because this shit's history. They might not think it's history, but this is history.
I mean, as
like,
far as I'm aware, when it comes to revolutionary struggle, white people need black people too. Otherwise, like,
man, people don't even know. People don't even know black people like really spearheaded UBI. Like, a lot of these concepts, like a lot of like far left concepts, like Medicaid for all, UBI, like black people who kind of invented, spearheaded these conversations way before like Andrew Yang's and Yang Gangs and all the other dumb shit. Just people don't know this because like people don't treat black history as if it's American history. People are not invested nor engaging with black content creators. Black people have been creating content consistently within this country since antiquity, since this country's antiquity. We've been making content since forever then. We made and literally garnered this country. We breastfed some of your grandmas and grandpas just for our fucking grandkids not to be accepted in your schools and institutions, to get beaten and battered for moving into your neighborhoods. Right? Because of your capitalistic desires of progress. You know what I'm saying? Like this is what people are not trying to, you know, I don't know how else I can say this. Like plot twist, they're all the bad guy. Like, there's no good guy. There is no, well, this leftist can be salvaged. Yeah, if the leftists can be salvaged, they probably would be trying to work on dismantling the space. They probably, like, how can we tell white people that they have to sacrifice their whiteness, but when it comes to bread tube, left tube, and any other fucking tube that these white Eurocentric, you know, not white, but these Eurocentric leftists, you know, talk about, they don't think that they have to sacrifice their platforms. Like, what kind of audacity do you have So you think like we don't have what it takes to like de-radicalize Nazis? Like bitch, we got to de-radicalize our own people. There's a lot of reactionaries and fucking social conservatives in our own spaces. You don't even make space for them. Like to me, it's giving me straight MSM. Like, yeah, you present yourself as a certain way, but when they're talking about behavior wise, you gotta put that asterisk. Like, I convert you convert white right wingers, you convert white social conservatives. Like, you play into white identity politics. Like, you don't help people who are on the right wing together as a whole. Like, I don't remember seeing you pulling over, far right Asian people, far right black people, far right Native American, indigenous people. I don't see you pulling far right, you know what I mean? Like, I don't see you doing that. Like, you only focus on white people and Nazis, white identity politics, and white nationalism. This is why you come with this uniform response of all nationalism bad. Then he tried to find the most extreme person that he can Google, which is Farrakhan, and be like, no, I don't agree with Farrakhan and his politics. You know what I mean? Like, fuck out of here. Like, eat a whole dick. Like, that shit, that's harmful as rhetoric, because you notice that you're wrong, you try to adjust your position, and everybody don't think for themselves, nor do they own deductive reasoning or critical thinking, right, to come to their own conclusions and be like, hold up, you're wrong. I'm gonna call you out on that. Matter of fact, we need to knock you down a couple of notches. Bitch, stop streaming for 3 months, because you was wrong. That shit's harmful. Matter of fact, to me, that would have been responsible. That's accountability. Bitch, you're not gonna stream for 3 months. Nobody's gonna watch you. Nobody's gonna talk about you. Bitch, you're gonna fill it in your pockets. Bitch, you said what about black nationalists and pro-black people? You ostracized who in your community? You made a black space in your fucking Discord as an April Fool's joke a year ago? Really?
What?
That's literally what happened. That's literally in the video. Like, we documented that too. Like, he literally made his black space in his chat as an April Fool's joke. Like, that's literally what he said, bar for bar, like out of Ed's mouth. He literally made his own black channel in Discord and turned it into the POC chat. But he admitted that the black space initially was made as an April Fool's joke. Like, so now, like, black spaces are April Fool's jokes within your own space. You get what I'm saying? This is what I'm saying. Like, and I'm not even playing into optics. I'm not even talking about the way it looks. It's just wrong. It's just wrong in principle. I mean, everybody got queer spaces, but when it comes to black spaces, they can't muster it up, so they call it a POC space. But all POC ain't the same. Like, a lot of people don't understand the power dynamics with us and other non-black people. Like, our relationships with other non-black people is not that crystal clear. And in many cases, a lot of us as black Americans are not that fond of other non-black people because they are just as bad as white people, and they vie for whiteness too. This is what people don't understand.
No, I mean, if he made that as an April Fool's joke, wasn't there like other like spaces that were in the same group?
To be honest,
honestly,
like, the way I look at it is like it was an April Fool's joke, and that's all I need to fucking know. You know what I'm saying? Like it just that in its principle. It's like, why would you dare say that out your mouth? Like, you ain't have no tact. That's how like, the fact that he could openly say shit like that shows you how confident he is in his space. This is how confident he relies on y'all, the viewers, and people in his vicinity to not hold him to task, to not put feet to his fire, not to dismantle him and other people like him. This nigga literally created a whole ecosystem. They literally created a whole fucking environment online, an online ecosystem out of this. And it's always, well, let's rationalize this. Not let's get the torches and burn it down. Fuck this shit. Like, treat that shit like y'all treat when y'all hear about black bodies getting burnt down. Bitch, put on your fucking Antifa mask and throw some rocks, throw some stones, fuck with somebody's pockets. I don't know. I mean, I'm not endorsing violence, no, but like y'all should hold them accountable as denizens of the bread tube collective, left tube, whatever the fuck. The Eurocentric white left want to rebrand itself because they do this shit every 2 years or some shit. They try to come up with a new springy term to basically whitewash over white identity politics, but it's still white identity Eurocentric perspectives. You know what I mean? Like it still plays into white identity politics. And then y'all have people tokenized to be like the spoon-feedy black person who can tell you in a way that's not going to make you feel uncomfortable. But what happens is a lot of these black people, like Professor Flower said in one of her videos in the Anti-Black Pipeline, y'all wind up having a fucking base, a 101 discussion. This is when you get T1J saying things like, just at least hear me out. Like in black spaces, there's no hear me out. It's like, okay, 302. 305, 505. This is how deep our analysis is with this shit. Where we're understanding how this shit working on many different levels. Where we understand that there's a social dominance, there's a caste that goes on in the system, but also within this caste, there's a lot of identities and factors that intersect that makes it a very nuanced situation. So we know that a black cis-hetero male would never be on the same level as a fucking white woman or white queer person. Sorry, that's just not how this works. Like, he's a black cis-hetero male, so when it comes to other black intersectional people, yeah, that person will be seen and deemed above them. But when it comes to other non-black people, hell no, get that fucking shit out of here. It's a whole cast. Bitch, we don't give a fuck if you're a white woman. Bitch, white women own slaves. There's a literal book called They Were Her Property. You can read that, right? A lot of black women got black men killed just off of suggesting that he fucking raped her when he never even was a mile within her vicinity. Right? Like, there's a lot of shit that gotta be discussed with white queer people, too. Like, early LGBT history, they was fucking anti-black proponents pushing fucking racist policies and all that, too. Like, a lot of these white queer people had owned and made and had businesses way before a lot of black queer people had businesses and shit. Like, this is how the bulk of the LGBT movement was funded. A lot of them was big company owners and inheritors of all kinds of white wealth. This is discussions that nobody talks about. So when we talking about like intersectionality, like a white woman would never be on the same plane as a black cis-hetero fucking male. A black cis-hetero male who engages in monogamy. Like, no. The monogamous, heteronormative, right? Like, to me, that is just not the same. Because the way one person can move through life is on a whole nother level, right? Black person making money trying to do good for himself, his community, and is a general liberal capitalist. Oh, black capitalism. That's bad. But if it's a white woman, it's a girly boss. Yes, girl. Yes, queen. Right? She can appropriate Alf. She can use the language, right? She can be celebrated for moving into our spaces and looking like us, to talking like us, and messing with our men while still co-opting black women and still in black queer fashion trends. And nobody called her out because she's a girly boss. Yes, queen. I mean, right? Like, this is.
I think we've got probably similar experience beliefs when it comes to like just liberal style identity politics. I hate to me. I wouldn't even call it like liberal because my bedtime right now. Like, turning to bed at 1 a.m. is probably a good idea for me.
Shit, it's like 3 a.m. on the EST. Where the fuck you at? Talking about 1 a.m. You must be in Cali or something. I'm gonna see you later.
I gotta get to work tomorrow, and they might even want me to be awake at the beginning of it. I'm not sure, but.
Well, you know where you can find me if you need me. I'm always here. You see my platforms. You see my profiles.
Sure thing.
Right? Like, I don't know if you're going to be in the server for long, or like one day you might wake up and I might kick your ass out. But it ain't like you can't get access to my platforms or profiles. It's not like this shit ain't going to be public. And that's that. You know what I mean?
Well, it's been good talking to you. I do appreciate your time.
You know it. Peace out.
All right. Have a good night.
You too. God damn, I had no lo-fi music playing or nothing. Well, good night, y'all.
I always had hopes of being a big star. Then I look, as you get older, you aim a little lower. And I just say, well, yeah, you still might make an impression. Everybody wants to leave something behind them. Some impression, some mark upon the world. Then you think you left a mark on the world if you just get through it. And a few people remember your name. Then you left a mark. You don't have to bend the whole world. I think it's better to just enjoy it. pay your dues, and enjoy it. If you shoot an arrow and it goes real high, hooray for you.